This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to a blustery, hot winter's day. You can see the winds of change are blowing, and that should indicate that we should get some rather foul weather coming in at some point. When we get these hot, windy days like this, at this time of the year, it often means that it is going to be a change of weather. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got a Senzo this afternoon, which is always a wonderful thing to have. It's been a while that I've spent with Senzo, since I've spent time with Senzo, so nice to have him on the car, and hopefully we'll have a really good afternoon. Generally when Senzo is on the car, I get some happy to have him on board. Now, we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that, and the Mara this afternoon, which means that it would be nice to have you send in all your questions and comments, and you can do that on #SafariLive. The plan for the afternoon is one of many. We're going to try and see what we can find. It's a very hot, warm day, and so that means, which you wouldn't say because I'm wearing a jersey, which is a long story as to why I have it on, but I think I might change everything around because I'm dying of heat in it. But anyway, it's hot, so that means that water is probably going to be the order of the day later afternoon. So we're going to try and see if we can find any sign of Hosanna from where we left him, given that tomorrow morning he needs to make an appearance on the TV show, on the Gauntlet series. So we'll try to see where he is and see what he's been up to. Also maybe just scratch around some of the pans, see if we can find any eddies. It's a really nice afternoon for eddies at water points, so we'll have a look around for that, and anything else that in general that is pretty good. And I think James will be looking around for Thandi and Kalamba and see where they've gone, and Jamie will be out in the Mara. So it's going to be a good afternoon. Hopefully lots of things will be taking place. I certainly am confident that we shall continue with our luck that we have had over the course of the last few weeks. It's been, well, insane really. I mean, we've been spoilt. That's probably the only way to put it. We have not had to really struggle that hard for, I would say, probably about the last month. We've kind of had things fairly easy, and most things have come to us nicely, which is always a appreciated thing and not something that we are taking for granted. I can promise. Hopefully it will continue. We'll just have to keep working hard and trying to see what we can find. Now, I said it's not just me out here. There's James and Jamie, which is going to be so confusing in my mind to link to them. But let's send you across to the first of those two J's. And, well, this one is, I would say, probably the one with less hair and a rather manly voice.
Yes, I have a very manly voice and no hair. Good afternoon. It's very nice to have you here with us for our sunset safari. There's Nyala. Yes, there's Nyala, everybody. My name is James Henry. You'll see that shortly. You'll see how to spell it when the camera comes back to me. We've got Fergus on camera. Fergus, be manly as well, Fergus. There we are. Good. Two men. Yes. Two men out driving here in the western lowveld of South Africa, eastern lowveld of South Africa. That's enough of that. We are on the search for Thandi and Kalamba, who by all accounts have gone east into the reserve next to us. That is of great distress to us. Likewise, Tingana has done the same. I'm hoping that the cooling waters of Buffelshoek Dam up in the northeast corner of Djuma will have attracted them back. So we're going to go and search the eastern sector where we were today with Thandi and Kalamba. Please talk to us, of course, using the #SafariLive. Otherwise, you can chat to us on YouTube with the chat stream. These are two Nyala bulls trying desperately to stay cool on a day that is probably round about 32 degrees or so, I'm thinking, centigrade, almost 89, maybe 92 degrees Fahrenheit or so. It does feel very hot. Oh, it is 92. It's very hot, everybody. Let's carry on. So if you weren't with us this morning, I do firstly admonish you, and then I say that we had a lovely, lovely morning with Thandi and Kalamba. They were both in the Far East. Thandi was on Boundy, I guess. She was quite active, knocking about the place.
almost half stalking impala, and then they were playing with each other, Tandi and Tlalamba, often initiated by Tandi, and that was about, I'd say 4:30 in the morning. They had a good time together, and then little Tlalamba had a very rough time. Her mother seemed to tell her to stay put. She went off for a brief hunting foray. 2 hyenas came by, so Tlalamba went up a tree. They kind of sniffed about a bit, but they're not much danger, of course, to a little leopard cub once she's figured out what's dangerous and what isn't. But then 2 lions came past, and they, of course, can climb trees, and it was potentially a very dangerous situation for Tlalamba, but by the time we went live with the show, the lions had moved off, and although I'm pretty sure they saw the leopard, they didn't do anything to her, thankfully. Here we have some impalas. A young male there. Hello. Oh, this is quite interesting. These guys are both odd. But no, they're not. Sorry, the one on the right, that one there on the right, yes, him. He's born normal time, December. Look at the guy behind him, he's smaller. And he was probably born later, during the February births. Yeah, him too. See that difference there? That's quite cool to see. That difference in age, of course, will become completely unapparent in about 12 months' time. Now, please try and find the first Wahlberg's eagle. He said yes, maybe in a couple of weeks. Definitely we've had Wahlberg's eagles in early to mid-August before. So I think that we will be able to see a Wahlberg's eagle, hopefully sometime soon. That would be the one I'd expect to see first of the migratory birds, except with the exception perhaps of a yellow-billed kite. We don't see them much here, but they are already back in the coastal regions of South Africa. So I'm expecting this heat to bring with it the cross-shaped flying figure of the Wahlberg's eagle sometime very soon. Yes, very exciting, Louise, that is correct. Not really, Firefly. The fact that the male leopard in whose territory she falls is dominant and holding on to the territory means that she will mate with him, but it's not unusual for leopards to go outside of their territories to go and seek out other males. So they'll go into the territories of other females, and therefore of males perhaps extra to their area, and they'll mate with them there. It's not very common, but it does happen quite a lot. Phew, it really is burning out here. The light is burning, the heat is burning, the wind is burning. It feels very burny. Alright, let's go back across to Tristan, find out his update on Hosana and his thoughts on the burning nature of this afternoon.
Well, James, I'm not sure it's that bad. I feel like it's warm, but it's not excessive. It's yet to get to that ridiculous October, November, December, January heat where you feel like your eyeballs are being melted in the back of your head as you drive along. So we're still all right for now. I mean, it's not comfortable, but it's not bad either. I think it could be a lot worse. Now, I am where I left Hosana. This is exactly where we last had a view of him. I just want to head slowly down into the drainage here because I have a funny feeling he might have found himself a nice little shady spot down here to have rested. The thing is with Hosana, as we know, is this morning when we left him, he was still very, very busy. He was not in any way going to be slowing down from what we could see, but what I'm hoping is that maybe he chased something, could have even potentially have killed something, and is now lay up in the shade and is just kind of taking it easy. That's my plan anyway. So I'm just coming down, just trying to see if I can find a track for him, see where he potentially could have gone. I'm not going to be able to go too far down here, but I just thought I would just check in all the little shady spots, see if there isn't a little spotted belly rising and falling, because I doubt that it's going to be a very moving spotted cat. I think it will be a cat that's lying down sleeping and trying to deal with the burning heat like James Henry. Hopefully James Henry doesn't go belly up and we see him kind of breathing heavily, because that will be a sign of, well, mass concern, because we wouldn't want James Henry to keel over in the course of our game drive. But the last time we saw him, he came down from our left to our right, running down into this area. Dyker ran across the drainage section and kind of through, and we didn't see from there where he went. It's very thick in here, as you can see. You can't really go far, and so once he cleared past here, I thought either he's going to go into the drainage and walk along that, or he could go over the top that side and maybe then go back around towards Galago Pan. I checked Galago Pan, there was no sign of him coming out that side, so he could be, I suppose, go and check Galago shortcuts and maybe he's gone there, or I thought maybe he might just have laid down somewhere close by, but it doesn't seem like he has. And given yesterday, which is quite an interesting kind of take on his movement, is he went for water after that failed Nyala hunt yesterday at the dam cam, and then he actually walked quite far during the course of the hot afternoon, and until we found him quite late in the afternoon kind of moving about. So I think we might have a similar thing today, unless he killed something. If he killed something, well then obviously he's not going to be moving at all. So I'm hoping that we'll find him somewhere in all of this. It's just going to be quite difficult to actually see him. It's also, it looks like Ellies have been walking around as well. Mrs. Zero, yes, I've recovered, I think, from our epic leopard sighting that we had yesterday. It was very, very good, wasn't it? I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Hopefully all of you did too. It was an interesting take on the behavior of our supposedly non-social cats that we get out here in the form of a leopard. So, you know, it was really kind of cool to just spend some time watching how Hosana and Tingana react to one another. I honestly, you know, didn't expect Tingana to be as relaxed as he was. I thought maybe, just maybe, you know, we might see Tingana snarl, and definitely I thought we'd hear him vocalize. I didn't expect him to be overly aggressive to Hosana. I thought we would just see him kind of vocalize and scent mark a lot and certainly stand his ground. But when he flopped over on his side, well, that was a little bit different. Oh, there goes a scrub bear. This is bait for Hosana. It's just run in behind us and gone into a little thicket on the other side there. So he loves a good scrub hare. So if he was here, he would have been out like a shot trying to find that scrub hare. It was obviously lying in the brush here and just trying to kind of hide away, but I don't think we'll find it now. It was somewhere between those two trees is where it ran. But once they're in the long grass, it's very difficult. Now somehow I'm going to have to think about getting out of here, which is going to take about a 400-point turn to get out, because I'm going to have to go and then out that way, so we can count them. Now, we've done 1 point in our turn, so this will be point number 2. I doubt it will be 400 points, but you get my drift that it's going to be a lot to try and actually turn around and get through here. Because there's a big stump behind me, which you might have noticed when we stopped just now. It's one nice thing about having small Land Rovers is that it's quite easy to maneuver and to get through. There we go. Not too bad, actually. It was not as bad as I first thought it would be. We actually managed quite fine. Right, now I'm going to try and scratch around here. I might just take a little walk quickly just to see where the last track goes. And so while I do that, let's send you across to, well, a surprise for the afternoon, Brent Leo Smith, who is following up on some toothy critters of his own.
Well, welcome to a slightly ominous evening here in the gorgeous Masai Mara. We're still sitting with Wino Pride that are pretty much playing with a few bits of skin that are left from the wildebeest they caught this morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Veerm on camera, and welcome to a wonderful day. As I said, a bit ominous. We've got some big clouds building to the north of us. Now, after Scott left this morning, VM and I have been sitting right next to these kitty cats. A couple of wildebeest wandered past, but not too close, and they've just been enjoying the shade of the balanites and shepherd's trees up until recently when the clouds moved in. Now Jamie is on her way to take over from me, and Jamie will be staying with them all the way through till about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, when Scotty will be back with them. So we're all taking turns with the Owinos today. Remember, hashtag SafariLive if you have any questions for us. They've been very lazy. They haven't even gone for a drink yet. And we've got 2 here. There's another 2 behind us, and I think one still up next to that tree where the vulture is, where they had their second kill. You see there? There's a vulture sitting on the rock. Somewhere up there is the 5th Owino. Not many wildebeest around. There were probably about 1,000 below us this morning. Oh dear, I'm losing comms. Go again, please, Louise. There's a couple down there, but I said there were probably close to 1,000 around here a little bit earlier in the morning, and they've slowly moved south. Apparently everyone's excited to see the lions. Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I've been seeing them for how many hours now, Vim? A few. We've seen them for a few hours. Since the sun was up, we've been seeing lions, yes. Now, we found that very big pride that we don't see too often this morning, the Ngarare pride. And they can be a little bit skittish, so we left them when it was time for Scotty to go to bed, because he had been up early bells this morning. And we came to babysit the Owinos. You can hear it's very still here in the Mara. A slight breeze, not too strong a breeze, although we did get a massive gust of wind earlier in the day, but it seemed to dissipate, so it's been quite pleasant, and hopefully that weather stays away for Jamie, who's got to be here through the night. Okay, well, we are going to continue waiting for Jamie and sit with the Owinos, and while we do that, let's go see if James has had any luck with Thandi and Tlalamba.
I haven't had any luck at all. We had some Franklin's alarm calling, which was alarming to us, but then they stopped and I drove into a fawn, and it was just very, very troublesome. Anyway, let's hope we do better up here. Don't know what the Franklins were shouting at. Couldn't find anything. We'll come back into this area, I think, a bit later. You may be able to hear from the tone of my voice that really I'm very frustrated by our current state of affairs, with television tomorrow and at least 3 of the cats supposedly lurking on Torchwood. Awful. Let's talk. Let's have a little... Oh, he's gone inside. David Plato has gone inside. You can just see his tail. The answer, Rafael, to that is a lot later than you think it's going to. Everybody thinks that as it has got a little warmer now, it's going to turn green straight away. We're going to have some rain, and of course that is not the case. It will probably only rain sometime towards the end of November. And so it's going to get drier and hotter and more difficult for the animals out here. In that hole, everybody, lives a lizard. A giant plated lizard, or rough-scaled plated lizard, actually, not a giant one, I don't think. And his name is David Plato. His name is David, of course, after the David Gitu, who lives, of course, in the Masai Mara. And he is named after David because David stopped here every single time he came on drive. And so he and David Plato, well, they became friends. David Plato has a wife, yes, as well, lives here. Mrs. Plato, Davina. I don't know where Davina is. Now, although I'm sure many of you are looking at this landscape thinking, gosh, it couldn't get any drier, surely, and with 2 months of heat still to go before they get any form of moisture, how will anything survive? I'm always amazed every day at about 5:30 at how the light softens and how this place transforms. It cools down, golden hues touch every piece of the bush. They're either greeny gold or browny gold or copper, and it just seems like a much more friendly environment than it does now, when looking around feels quite harsh. Which is, I'm sure, how the animals see it, which is, you know, it's why they're lurking in the shade, trying to be away from the sun. Anyway, our next port of call will be Biffleshoek Waterhole, like I said. See if there's something going on there. It is astounding how often I've been to these waterholes and there is nothing going on despite the heat of the day. Very strange indeed. Oh, now I've got something blown in my eye. Ow. Don't worry, I'll survive. Phew. Okay, well, I'm okay, but I'm going to run out of signal, so let's go to Tristan.
Well, James, shame. It sounds like you're having a tough afternoon. You're being obliterated by the sun. Things are flying into your eyes. Thorn trees are attacking you. It's always a woe is me situation that is going on with James Hendry this afternoon. Hopefully, Thandi and Kalamba ease his pain and will at some point make an appearance in order to entertain James and, well, make him happy again, and that he feels all right about life. And so far, no sign of Hosanna that we can see. There's been Ellies that have walked through that drainage, and it kind of squashed the tracks from where I found where we last had him and where they headed and went towards that drainage line. But from there, I can't see anything because, well, Ellies just went crazy in there and just walked all over the place. And so, you know, it's going to be a bit tricky to try and track him. So what I'm thinking is that I might just carry on for the afternoon for a bit and just go and scratch around other places, maybe go check Treehouse and just generally kind of drive around for a bit and see what's happening in the heat of the day, and then come back to this area as the evening progresses, because I'm sure he is going to come out for water. It's just going to depend on which pan he actually decides to visit. Is it going to be the Galago pan, or is it going to be his favorite pan, which is that of the Vuyatela little pump pan in front of the camp? So one of the two of them is going to see him arrive at some point during the course of the afternoon. I checked that he didn't go down towards quarantine, because that's often his maneuver when he wakes up or comes this way. So maybe that's where he'll head. Anyway, it sounds like Jamie has got something very exciting afoot in the Masai Mara, which means that I have to wait for 10 seconds for our delay to kick in before I can send you there quickly and quick.
Hello, and welcome to the Masai Mara. I've been racing to join Brent with the lions, and look what we've just stumbled upon. So the plan is basically to spend our entire time with the Owino Pride. We're not going to take our eyes off them now, so that you can see who's speaking to you. Those of you who know me will recognize my voice. Those who don't, well, you'll get used to it. So this herd of zebra have just come wandering along down the road in front of me, and I've had to stop so that I don't push them straight into the lions themselves. Brent is with the pride. He's actually not far from where we are now. He's watching this from a different perspective. Here comes the lioness. Now, although the Owinos have been extraordinarily successful over the past few nights, those youngsters are still absolutely putting everything into learning to hunt. And of course, during the migration is the best possible time to do this. They're still messing things up. Brent told me earlier, between drives, that the young female messed up one of their hunts. She got overly excited, over eager. From this distance, I can't tell which lioness this is, but she's walking straight towards them, and we are in the perfect position, and these zebra have absolutely no idea. And she's on the road. They're following the road. She's looking back at the others. I I think that's the young male by the tree, now hiding behind the tree. I can see more than one tail. It's extraordinary. I wonder what Brent's perspective like. He must also be able to see things really clearly. The good news is that between the two of us, even though it means that Brent's going to have an extraordinarily long day, between the two of us, we have we have all sides covered, essentially. The joys of the vast open Mara plains. Brent is... There Brent is. So there we go. The lions... That line is now completely flat. You can just see her ears. There's a couple of twists and turns on this road. I'm staying back where I am because I don't want to startle the zebra. Generally speaking, animals like this don't like having vehicles following behind them. We always try and make sure that we don't interfere in any way, and I don't want to chase them straight into the lions or panic them and distract them with the loud noise of the vehicle. Oh, zebra. Most likely the mare leading the way. She's taken her herd on the wrong path. The stallion usually walks behind. I think he is in this case too. This lion's flat. This lead mare almost looks pregnant as well. Now, which lions are these? The adults or the youngsters? I have to tell you something though. If these lionesses do catch the zebra, they're going to be here all night. Which... Well, I say that. They've abandoned the last... Oh. Spotted? Or something just not right. Maybe she heard something. Maybe she smelled something. Oh dear. She didn't listen to that instinct. That was the turning point. Very hard for me to gauge distance from this angle. I don't know how long that zebra's going to have to walk before she gets too close, or close enough for the lion to launch her chase. I don't know where the other albinos are. She stopped again. Something's not quite right. Maybe she can smell lion in the air. Now it's starting to get a little bit far for us to see properly. Oh, there's a lion sticking its head out of the tree. Let's go jump onto the back of Brent's vehicle where he's sitting just a few meters away.
So we are actually still right next to the lions. The zebras are about 30 meters away now. So the lion is sitting just over here. And the wind is going towards the zebras. So I'm pretty sure they're catching the odd whiff of a lion. It looks to be one of the young females. Now what the zebras don't know is that there are actually lions dotted around all over here, and if they run down the hill, so they're definitely smelling. So I'm just going to try to show you. There's another lioness just in there. So it's likely the zebras might even accidentally run into an ambush that's not even planned. They can definitely smell something's up. Hello, Magic Dragon Wizard. There are 5 lions here, but only one is stalking. The rest are full-bellied and flat. Even the one that's stalking is full-bellied, but the instinct has taken over. You can see there's lions dotted all over the place here. But only the youngest female of the owinos has shown interest in these zebra that are walking straight into them at the moment. Although you can see they're not sure. They can definitely smell the lions, and the lions have been around here for a long time now, so there's a lot of lion scent in this area. So we're just playing the patience game now. Only about 20 meters. So the lioness is just behind that little green thicket. But as I said, behind her, hidden in the long grass under one of the balanites, is another lioness. So there, around the base of that tree, somewhere in there is another lion. And you can see the zebras definitely know something's up. Matome says, my heart is pounding. Well, we're going to see what happens, because she's quite an inexperienced hunter. But she's getting lots of practice this migration. Zebra's now just keeping very, very still, trying to make sure that they don't walk into this ambush. And we can't move the car at the moment. There we go. Some of the other zebras are getting a little bit more impatient. They haven't started snorting yet, so they're not 100% convinced that there's actually a lion there. Hi, Lily. Lily is 7 years old. Lily would like to know how close do the zebra have to get for the lions to pounce. Well, it all depends, but normally they like to pounce from very close, as close as possible, Lily. But normally 10 meters, so a little bit closer than what these zebra are now. Oh, there was a little snort, I wonder. Oh, there she goes. That was really useless. Now wait, let's stick on that other. If it turns, it's not going to turn. I was wondering if it was going to turn towards. There we go. You can just see that lioness has popped her head up now. There she is. Look at that. Lucky zebras. Lucky, lucky zebras. Unlucky lions. But see, that she's young and she's inexperienced. And I think it's more of a game because she is so full at the moment that it's sort of practice, practice, practice. Now we can hear the zebras snorting away. Unlucky lions. And now off they go. Okay. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to the Winos and start heading towards home and hand them on to Jamie. But if we find anything on the way home, I'll definitely show it to you. But let's go see Commander Bond and some heffalumps.
Here's some beautiful elephants. We are sitting here with them not too far from Biffleshoek Waterhole. I'm pretty sure they've had a bit of a drink there. And there's one very close to us here. She's very relaxedly feeding. We were charged briefly by about a 1-year-old elephant. It was very terrifying. Fergus and I had to hide in the footwell of the vehicle. But since that rather terrifying event, we have now got this cow coming towards us. She's probably about, I think she's quite old. I think she's about 40 odd. Now she's not showing any signs of irritation. She's very calm. She's approached us. So I'm just going to sit here quietly. You'll hear my voice dropping proportionately with her closeness. She's only about 2 meters from us. That's about just over 6 feet away. Isn't this magic? Look how close the camera's managed to get into her. She'll be watching us, but she's not worried about us. If she was vaguely upset by us, she'd be flapping her head and she'd hold her ears out towards us. There's a great misconception amongst South Africans especially that when an elephant flaps its ears, it's irritated. It's not true. When an elephant holds its ears out and lifts its head, then very clearly it is upset, but she's not doing any of that. She's completely relaxed, just moving the bushes out the way so she can still get the last bits of nutritious grass that there are. Doesn't that sound amazing? Ingrid, yes, it is pretty true. The males are cast out, but they're not... I mean, they stay away out of choice. You know, they're much bigger than the females. They can basically do what they like. So they get tossed out of the herd when they're about 18. And then they must go and live a life of bachelorhood. And eventually, possibly only when they're 35 sometimes, will they manage to mate with a female, such as this one here. But when you say they're cast out, it makes it sound a little bit like they don't have a choice once they're older, which they do, and they choose to be on their own. And a cow like this, who's most likely the matriarch of this herd, she looks like the oldest cow in this herd, she would chase out the young bulls when they started to get too boisterous. She is a magical creature. Look at her. Huge. Absolutely huge. If I was to stand next to her, I might come up to her chest, maybe. Isn't that amazing? Now, Rosalind, they spend about, I think it's, when they're adults, about 75% of their time feeding. So they must feed for a long time, every single day. That was magic. Very, very special being that close to an elephant who's chosen to come close to you and not shown any aggression whatsoever. And you heard her scraping in amongst the grass there. Wasn't that special? She's moved off the grass now. She's onto some bark and trees. I think you'll probably find that elephants are going to come sort of drifting through this area almost all afternoon. They'll probably come past the waterhole, drift through here, eat what they can, and hope for a bit of coolth come the evening. Now, heat for an animal like this is potentially difficult, or potentially dangerous, given that they are so big. They have such a vast surface area to volume ratio. It means they lose heat more slowly than animals that are smaller than them, such as bushveld gerbils, for example, which are much smaller. And the kind of mechanism by which they survive the heavy heat of some parts of African areas is the radiator in the ears. Of course, they're able to cool their blood going to the brain using those ears as radiators. But also, they heat up much more slowly. So although they lose heat quite slowly, they also heat up much slowly. So if they sit under the shade, you know, for most of the hottest parts of the day, yes, they'll get a bit hot, but they don't get over hot. It's also why, of course, they don't have any fur on them. At least they have those ears to stay cool. And you can see she's hardly moving her ears at all, which means she's not that hot. Oh yes, Gary, I'm sure every single animal here will be looking forward to the coming rains. I think every animal in the world just about looks forward to the end of winter, except for perhaps wild dogs. They like the winter, of course. It's when they have their babies. It's easy for them to hunt. But I think certainly every herbivore looks forward to the end of winter and the coming of summer and the growth season and the green grass. I certainly do. I feel like that. I mean, I've enjoyed this winter. It hasn't been bad at all. It's been nice to have the change of seasons. But I look forward to the birds coming back, the nesting weavers, the mating calls, the woodland kingfishers, dare I say it, and of course the Wahlberg's eagle, whose arrival I look forward to eagerly, awaiting eagerly, am awaiting eagerly. I am not speaking English because my brain, cooked is, from sun, can be out now. Whew, Mara Masai, much cooler wind blow, Jamie. 10 second now, to Jamie go, Owino Lion Pride, hunting was, not now.
It is actually, and it hasn't rained in weeks and weeks, and now it's decided that tonight when Manu and myself are out all night following lions that it's going to pour with rain. I can see it coming. There's no way we're escaping this, and I have to tell you, I'm a little bit unimpressed. I am, however, after that exciting start to my time spent with the Owinos, very, very happy that I get to do this once again during this migration series. Of course, Manu and myself have been spending all our time with hyenas. In fact, I'm not even sure what lions are anymore. It's the tawny ones, right? This is a lion, not a leopard. That's right. And last year, I spent most of my time during our previous migration series with this particular pride, back when the babies were actually probably only around about 6 months old, and of course formed that attachment to that pale lioness cub, who unfortunately didn't make it, but the other 3 did, and I'm still very much attached to them. I would suppose, they are my favourite pride in the Mara. Hey girl, it's been a long time since you and I have spent a long evening together. Last time I followed you all night was in September last year. Lauren, you want to know about what the biggest prey would be that one of these lions could take down. The answer to that is, okay, this is one of the youngsters, so she's not experienced enough to really tackle something like an adult zebra. I have known one lioness to take down an adult zebra. I've also known 2 adult lionesses to take on a buffalo. That's rare, particularly in the Mara. Generally speaking, these lions can hunt buffalo, but generally speaking, they're not quite...
Oh, the Mara has gone away, to think it was the storm. I don't know, there's an elephant. I apologise for that as well. Like I say, brain cooked is eat much. In skull, overcooked, grey matter. We haven't got to Buffelshoek Dam yet. We are still sitting with the elephants, and I do apologise for the lack of Mara. They are having a little bit of trouble with their feeds, and it seems to me that every time one of those big East African storms comes rolling down the plains, somebody or something somewhere has a panic attack, and the Mara signal goes zoop. I'm not suggesting it's anyone in our team, but perhaps a Kenyan gremlin or 2 sitting on the towers that broadcast our signal. It is very special to be in the Mara when one of those storms rolls in, I must say. It's not very special when it hits you, but it's fairly special to watch it come. Now I think this is a different herd of elephants. They're slightly behind the others. Let's just keep going. We're going to go towards the dam now, mainly because there's some shade for me to sit in. Brain uncooked can become. I'm just going to flap my ears like an elephant. Doesn't work, Fergus. Alright, let me keep flapping my ears and see if it works. Ask Tristan to do the same for you now.
I'm not sure flapping of ears would be possible, James. I don't even know how people do it. When they move their ears, I'm not one of those people that can do that, so I don't know how. Senzo, can you move your ears? Senzo's shaking his head behind me. He says no, he doesn't know how to do that either. So good luck with that, James. I'm trying to think about how it would even work, but my brain is just not functioning this afternoon. Maybe it's like James said, it's being cooked, and that's why. But Louise, can you move your ears? So you are part elephant then, Louise? Is that what you're telling me? You can even move them independently. You are definitely got some elephant blood in you if you can move them independently. Now, interestingly enough, we're just bumbling about. We haven't seen anything really, but we're just kind of having a look around. But Aubrey has picked up on tracks of a young male leopard that is moving around far, far, far west, around sort of Gauri, Repeater, Balanites area. Now that can't be Hosanna. We know where Hosanna was last night, we know where he went, and we know where he's been this morning. So those tracks must be for maybe that Kwatile male. So for you, those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, there was a male leopard that we saw on drive. When was it? Was it just after Steve arrived back from the Mara or before he went to the Mara? I can't remember. So it was end of last year or beginning of this year. And there was a young male that came from the northern Manyeleti area and moved through, and he wasn't here for long. He hunted some warthogs. Steve will remember it very clearly because he absolutely loved the sighting. But anyway, that male leopard has been hanging around quite a bit on the Simbambili side of things and has been seen a lot around One-Eyed Pan area. And it seems as though there's tracks for a leopard of around that size that's moving about there. Now, it could be him, or, dare I say it, could it be that our green-eyed boy is also going to make his way back for a TV appearance? I hope so. It would be nice. It would be very cool if Tamba arrived back. Imagine that. That would be spectacular. Imagine if we had Hosanna and Tamba together again and they roamed around as this little coalition of young male leopards that just doesn't care about what anybody else thinks. It would be quite fun, I would imagine, to follow those two around. So who knows? I mean, I don't know who it is. I'm just surmising. Those are the only two male leopards that would have feet of that size in the area. It's not Hukamuri for sure, because he was found yesterday, both drives, this morning again, all on the far west on Arathusa side, mating. So I would be very surprised if it was Hukamuri that made that appearance, and his track size, from what I gather from Aubrey, is not Hukamuri's size either. So it's going to be interesting to see who this leopard is. Apparently he's moving slightly south on Mendoza Road, which is basically parallel to where I am. So I'm going to check Treehouse Dam, because if it's Tamba, it could very well be that he goes to Treehouse Dam. And so while I head off to Treehouse, it sends you back across to James and see if he's mastered that ear flapping technique yet.
Well, it's very interesting, that young male leopard track story there, because I went for a run there earlier today. Oh, look at them. This is a tower of terrapins, by the way. And I think they're sitting on a little mud protuberance and on each other, and half of them just fell off each other into the water. I'm not sure why they're out of the water today. I would be in it if I was a terrapin. Anyway, that's quite fun. There are lots and lots of terrapins in this dam. Sorry, I paused suddenly because I saw one of our trackers who's come to help us find animals for the show tomorrow. There's also a waterbuck here, and I'm not sure, Fergie, we can get a shot of her there. There she is. She's all on her own, trying to have a drink, but she seems to be rather distracted and disturbed by life generally. I wonder if she hasn't had an experience with those two lions earlier today, perhaps. They were apparently quite close by. Three-banded plover flying around there, waterbuck not playing ball, just staying behind the tree. What a pain in the backside. Okay. Speaking of creatures that can move their ears, I thought I would demonstrate one to you. Would you like to see, Fergus?
That's what we're all here, man.
Here we go. Are you ready? I didn't even need to do it with my hands. Isn't that impressive, everybody? I'm cooling down. Louise says she can also do that. Either that means I'm more monkey than I am human being, or I'm uber evolved. I'm not sure which. Let's just move along here because the water buck is now in the water. It's a bit odd. She's having a nice drink now. Now she feels quite safe, I guess, having a drink there. Come on, drink. Should be all right. Very nervous. Yes, thank you very much. Apparently all of you are most impressed by the fact that I can move my ears. Thank you. It's something I've worked on for many years, of course. It's a real skill. And it's a stand-up skit that's going to make me millions of rands one day, or dollars, hopefully. Rand took a bit of a dive today. Vehicle you could hear was the tracker. I'm going to talk to him now, just see what he's found, where he's going. Until then, let us go across to the Masai Mara, where Jamie Patterson has taken over from Brent. I'm sure she's got herself some tea and some snacks. She's settling in for the long haul.
It's started to rain in the Mara, and the Owino Pride have started to sort of reconvene around a convenient tree, probably thinking about sheltering underneath it. So we've got three here. Three? Four? Three. We've got three here and two behind me. And in the past, when I've followed them through the night, they've always managed to get separated. Every single time. They've vanished off and we've had to try and pick which one to follow, try and follow them as they look for each other. Oh, what's up, guys? Are there more coming? Hold on. I think we need to move. There's something about the body language of that lioness. Hold on. Hold on. What's up, ladies? We've all been spending a bit of time with the Owino Pride at different moments, and we've all come up with different nicknames for them, all independently of each other, so they have a vast array of different nicknames. I've named one of them Mildred, in my own mind. Hashtag not official name. What is she seeing? I don't see anything. But her body language changed completely. I don't see anything. The second, maybe it was the other lioness she was looking at. Which way, which group to stay with? I want to keep all in view. I think I'm going to keep all in view. So in terms of our prospects for this evening, I think even though these lions are full, I'm just going to stop where Manu can see these guys as well. Despite the fact that these lions are full, there's quite a biggish for this year. I mean, this is basically what the migration looks like. There's a big herd over there. So I think that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be following the Owinos straight into the center of it. And into the rain, by the looks of things. I mean, generally these herds of wildebeest will be so spread out that you can't even really work out exactly how many of them there are until night falls, and you actually realize that there's probably around about 1,000 wildebeest here, possibly even more. A lot of them are in the next valley and in the valley behind me, and it's only when night falls that we'll actually gather them together and we'll see. Manu, we're looking across at North Clan, very, very far away, underneath Serena. And that's North Clan's territory towards those two mountains. Is she roaring? Is she calling? Margarita, welcome, as we wait and see if she is. I think she's contact calling. Margarita, there is one great migration throughout the entire year, but essentially it's one big constant process. So the wildebeest move in one, if you were to sort of average it out, they move in one big circle into the Masai Mara for these 4 months, then back down south towards Tanzania, and then into the Serengeti, and then they give birth in February, and then they come all the way back up and do it again. But in terms of the wildebeest arriving in the Masai Mara, yes, that happens about once a year. That doesn't mean you don't see wildebeest. But people tend to think often, we were at great pains to explain this last year, people seem to think that the wildebeest all move as one big group all together, and that 1.5 million wildebeest come thundering through the plains at one time. That's actually not exactly how it works. First come the zebra in herds, and it can be some herds of 1,000, some herds of 100,000. And that's the way that they move. Some take one route, some take another route into the Masai Mara. So it's sort of a spread out migration. It's not one big group of animals deciding to move all together, because that would be absurd actually if you think about it. That's why you get crossings at one time or another. That's why, for example, here we've got a scattered group of wildebeest being watched by the Owino Pride. What is interesting is just how much their territories have shifted. From where I was spending the evening with them so long ago, a year ago, we're now in a completely different place. Just by the way, I promise I brushed my hair before I went on drive. I've just seen the back of my head and it's absurd and it's a bit embarrassing. It was from driving really, really fast in the wind. I did actually have neat hair, I promise. I haven't had a chance to rectify that. I'm sure none of you mind. It's the authentic wilderness experience. There we go. That's where they've got one of their wildebeest kills. There's a young male there. We've nicknamed Little Pukey, because every time VM and I see him he pukes. Vomits would be the more official term. And then there is another female. Now here was the curious thing. We knew that we had 2 females and a male in terms of the Owino youngsters. But Nikki Austin, who of course is in final control, we sat and stared at screenshots of the area underneath her tail for hours, comparing it, and every time we saw her we tried to double check that we were correct, because she has, I don't know if they've gone down, I haven't spent much time with her, but she has 2 protrusions on either side of that whole sort of process. And she has 2 protrusions, and we don't quite know exactly why. We don't know if it's sort of hormonal swelling or something like that, but I promise you, it should be very easy at this age to determine whether or not you're looking at a male or a female, and we weren't 100% sure. We knew it was a female, but it just looked very odd, so I've sent the pictures on to vets, just to see if I can get any feedback as to why it might be that she's got such a curious structure. We sort of talked about potential internal prolapses or something like that. I think there's a second kill. Oh, there we go. The vultures are gathering. Yesterday, we were here for the Today Show filming. This is where we were, essentially. And, oh, she's gonna go chase them away. And I saw all these vultures, and I nearly had a panic attack because I couldn't face the fact that we knew there were lions somewhere around here and I couldn't go and look for them. All around great fun. And she's going, I think there's a second kill there. Where did that lioness even come from? She must have been hiding up there. They'll gather together as night falls. Fortunately for Manu and myself, it's quite an easy area, touch wood, to follow them. I really don't want to lose them before Scotty goes live tomorrow with them for the Gauntlet episode 4. I had to think about that. Manu's nodding at me with wide eyes. Episode 4. I can't tell you how difficult it is to keep track. A nice, beautiful shape that she's underneath. Oh, I hear calling. Very soft contact calls. Coming from this lioness. I think that's the two adults. Okay, we're going to sit with our winnows, make sure that we keep them for tomorrow morning. In the meantime, Tristan's focused on finding spots.
Well, I'm trying to, Jamie. I'm, in fact, at this stage, trying to find anything that even moves other than a leaf blowing in the wind, because I've had zero luck. I don't think I've seen... Well, I've seen two Steenbok, and neither of them wanted to be on screen. They both ran away from me, so it's been a bit dire this afternoon so far. But we'll get there. We'll find something eventually. You just got to kind of wait for it to cool down a little bit, and then hopefully things should start coming down to water points as the afternoon wears on. That's the idea anyway. What I'm doing now at the moment is just slowly bumbling along, as you can see, very slowly, along Zoe's, trying to find any sign of maybe this male leopard coming towards or deeper into Djuma. I have a funny feeling it's turned and gone back towards the Arathusa side, because I can't find anything coming in. It's just the tracks from Hosanna and Tingana around Treehouse. No sign of any other individuals coming to drink, and so I'm just gonna double check. Across here then most definitely is not on our side anymore, or is right on the edge of the boundary. But Aubrey says to me the tracks are from early this morning, so I suppose it's a long period, and there was sawing from Tingana very early this morning. At about 2:45 I heard Tingana sawing, just kind of to the southeast, and as it turns out his tracks were around where Tandi and Kalamba were, and they went into Torchwood. So now I'm pretty sure this male might have heard that and then changed direction and moved off. And yes, indeed, Louise, just in time, it's perfect time to wake up. 2:45 in the morning is, you know, nice time to be out and about. Just kidding. It actually is quite nice to be out and about at that time, and I'll tell you why. It's quiet. There's very little in the way of other vehicles, so you kind of drive around and you feel quite at peace with what's going on. Two is that it's been very interesting just to kind of study what's gone on during the course of the night, and spending time with Hosanna mostly in those hours. It's probably the cat that I spent the most time with over the course of the last few weeks and these days that we've been out so early in the morning. It's been very interesting to watch how he behaves. Generally, he is a napping cat. He likes to sleep for the early hours of the morning. He thinks bedtime is around that time, and he only generally wakes up at about anywhere between 4:30 and 5:30. That's when he decides it's time to wake up, and then he goes for a walk around sunrise, which is quite interesting, because before doing this, we often used to think, well, the leopards move around in the deep of the night and they move all over the place, but it actually shows you that most of them, and this goes for even Tingana and Tandi to a degree, is that they're fairly static for those few hours before dawn. So, you know, 2, 3, 4, they kind of just sit around and they sleep a lot of the time, unless of course they're hunting and there's an opportunity to hunt. But they sit and sleep, and then just before that sun is going to come up, so about an hour before, 45 minutes before, they start stirring, and then they start to move around, and then they hunt and kind of walk and scent mark and do whatever they do until sunrise, and then they do it into about an hour after sunrise, and then so it's a interesting take, and it's been really quite fascinating to watch these animals at that time of the day. It's just interesting to hear all the sounds that you hear at that time. You often hear lions roaring, you'll hear vocalizing leopards, there's lots of night sounds, so scops owls, barred owlets, you hear the nightjars. It's very, very pleasant. So quite enjoy actually spending time out at that time. It is an ungodly hour to be awake, but it is very, very cool to be out in the reserve and kind of witnessing what goes on. Anyway, we're going to see what else we can find, if we can find anything, not what else, and we'll try to find something. And in the meantime, let's send you across to James, who, well, is not struggling to find anything this afternoon.
Well, I've been quite lucky, I suppose. These are the two lions, I think, that were stalking around Tlalamba. The other one is flat in the grass behind this fire break, so we can't get to her. They are, strictly speaking, on Torchwood. and so we can't go on to or get any closer or find out exactly who they are. A number of you thought they were from the Talamati Pride earlier today, and they could still be on Djuma, because these are the only two we can see here, and the tracker that I was talking about earlier, his name is Arab. Arab said that he was looking around here earlier and didn't find any tracks crossing out of Djuma. So it's possible that the rest of the pride is around here somewhere. We'll keep having a look. Very difficult to identify that animal from what we're looking at there. And obviously, well, not the best lion sighting we've ever had. Not quite the same as the Wiener's hunting zebra. I do think that the lions here are nocturnal. And they also have to possibly at this time of the year work a little harder for their meals. Zebra and buffalo seem to be the order of the day. The lions out here at the moment. Now there is a buffalo herd lurking somewhere between Torchwood, which is where you're looking, and Buffelshoek to the north. And so I'm sure this pride is going to be trailing them. And wherever the Unkuhumas are, and I'm not sure if this is Unkuhuma or Talamati, they will probably be doing the same. Anyway, this is a profoundly boring lion sighting, so we're going to carry on down the road. We are on the eastern boundary, as I said, on Cheetah Cut Line. Coast-sider, I suppose the beginning of my career, I was pretty scared of lions from time to time. You know, in fact, probably the time that I was the most afraid of a lion was when I just started at my training course, so I knew absolutely nothing. And I was at Pinda, and they had a lion there that had just been reintroduced, so he was relatively used to human beings, and he got quite used to people and cars. And he chased vehicles. Now, it's all very well having a Jack Russell or a Fox Terrier chasing your car wheel or your bicycle wheel. It's quite another when it's a 200-kilogram lion. And this guy, one night we were driving home from somewhere or other, I can't remember exactly. Everyone was in the back, I was driving. I'm not a great driver now, but I was profoundly terrible back then, so I was concentrating very hard. And I looked to the side, and there was this thing just bounding out of the bush straight at me, and of course there's no door on the car. And I was absolutely terrified, because the lion would not stop chasing the car. I don't think I'd be afraid now. I think I would stand up and shout, and I imagine it would go away. But you know, in general, lions tend to move away. They're not particularly nasty around cars, and if they are feeling or if they're afraid, then they'll move away. There's a little steenbok there. I wanted to stop quite far away because, of course, they do normally run away. Extremely well desert adapted animal is the steenbok, which means it will cope with this heat very easily. I always find this time of the year you've got to kind of get used to the heat again. It's not so much that it's as hot as it's going to get, you just got to kind of get used to it again. Standing like a steen or a stone, that's why they're called steenbok. And that's one eating now because it's so comfortable around us. There is a fly flying around my head that's going to get beaten very shortly. Wait, down they go. Wait. No. Has it gone?
It's come to me.
Ah, it's come to you. Anyway, if you hear some slapping noises, you'll know. You'll know. Oh. Number 2. Oh, it's irritating. Thank you. I don't think I got it. I think I've just deafened myself. What a Pinda is. Pinda, everybody, is a reserve down to the south east of South Africa. It's not southeast of South Africa, it's northeast coast really. It's a beautiful reserve from reclaimed farmlands. It's where Brent spent a lot of his childhood. His father helped set up Pinda. Well, the rest of the lions were around here this morning. Under that tree there, were they? And they don't seem to have crossed out, so we'll just have a little sneak around here. See if we can find the rest of the pride. While we do that, let us go to somebody who has lions. Lions that are a lot more active than ours. Lions that could quite possibly kill something from the Great Migration buffet.
I have lions. I have some very far away, but I do have lions. I'm very curious as to what's going on here. I assume there is a kill back towards this direction, because the lioness of the Owino pride has moved all the way far away from the rest of her pride, up against the escarpment. I'm hoping that's not where she's planning on spending the evening, because that's going to make life very difficult. Oh, my goodness. That is not easy terrain at all. I think she's just coming to keep the vultures away from their second kill. And she doesn't look nearly as full as the rest of them do. So perhaps she's still hungry and still planning on eating. You know, I've deprived Manu of this time spent with the hyenas for so long that I'm going to tell you all that he's seeing hyena absolutely everywhere. He's quite convinced that every termite mound and rock is a hyena, and I can't help but share his feelings. We abandoned them at a truly crucial moment with a second female around the den. But it is really lovely to spend some time with lions. I have neglected lions for, I wouldn't say 4 months, I would say 2 months. Since Brent returned from his trip to Botswana, we've been solidly on hyena duty. So it's nice to spend some time with some big cats. Speaking of hyenas, just to quickly address it, because you're not going to see them tomorrow. Actually, maybe you will. However, just to quickly address whether or not we have seen our new syrup, our little syrup, our baby waffles. The answer is yes, we have, and that's why you must tune in to watch episode 4 of The Gauntlet tomorrow, so that you can see what it is we've seen, because I've got to tell you, it's adorable. Absolutely downright adorable. But it's been a few days since I've managed to make my way back to Waffles' natal den due to other commitments. So I promise you, let's hope Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, we'll go and see if she's there and if the little one is out. It came out in the middle of the day, can you believe it? So, you know, there's real hope for tomorrow afternoon's sunset safari. Oh, my fingers are crossed. I really hope it's there. At that point, I will be a zombie, just to warn you. For we shall continue on through the day tomorrow after continuing through the night. But I will take you to see it. Fingers crossed. I mean, we couldn't possibly finish the series without a view of Little Syrup, could we? Interestingly enough, Brent, with absolutely no idea what name I'd put forward or suggested the exact same name to the researchers a couple of days later. There's a few suggestions. Would you like to hear them while our lions sleep? Because they will get up in a bit. One, because it's got to be syrup-themed. One is grenadine. Oh, did I tell you this already? I'm sorry. I have no idea what I've said live, not live, to Manu, not to... But I actually have no idea where I am in time or space. One particular suggestion put forward was cough syrup, which I think is hilarious. Imagine a hyena called Cough. Look, it's little Cough. Or look, it's Big Cough running in when it's a little older. And the alternative is grenadine. Ultimately, however, that decision will rest with the Michigan State University Mara Hyena Project. We're sitting with lions, though, so I will slowly turn us back around to talking about the Owino Pride. I wonder what they have in store for us tonight. That's the thing about the migration, is all bets are off. They're not quite in... Well, I don't know if this counts as their territory anymore. We've given up trying to work out what their territory even is at this point. I feel like they might be on the fringes of it, but I really don't know. But even though they're full, there's still a chance they're going to hunt something, just as they tried with those zebra a little bit earlier. And the animals will start to wander, to gather together, and they could easily walk right up to the rest of them. I think I'm going to move slightly, get a bit closer to one of the groups. Lauren, there are actually quite a few mass migrations. The Great Migration doesn't actually make the top spot in terms of numbers. There is a massive migration of bats in Central Africa. That is one of the largest migrations in the world. There are, of course, big migrations of birds. Oh, there she's coming back again. What are you doing? And there is cob migrations. So there's migrations actually throughout the world. Anywhere where there's a situation where an animal has limited resources in one place or better resources in another, they will actually migrate and move around depending upon that. Be fascinating to know, actually, the history behind the evolution of migratory animals. What makes some stay and some go. We used to, in South Africa, have one of the largest migrations in the world. And I'm saying used to. It was stopped in sort of animal terms relatively recently. When people started to colonize South Africa and put up fences, it put an end to a massive migration of springbuck. Springbuck used to migrate throughout South Africa in numbers possibly greater even than the Great Migration here in East Africa. But fences are the greatest hindrance to migration patterns. It's something that's starting to happen here in Kenya, particularly less so with the main body of the migratory herd that goes backwards and forwards between Tanzania and Kenya, and more with the loiter herd that stays within Kenya but moves back to the loiter hills. And I have a confession to make that many of you will know. When I first heard of the loiter herd, I assumed that they were named that because they were loitering. But I was mistaken, and somewhat embarrassingly so. Turns out it's the name of the area that they migrate to, spelled Loita. Not they were just loitering and got lost and went in the wrong direction. Excruciatingly embarrassing when I found that out. Whoops. My mistake. Oh, they're calling again. Let's see if she comes this way. I don't know what's attracted her attention there. It's the paler lioness, the one that I nicknamed Mildred, I think. Not quite as muscly. And these are, we know girls really are muscly. Not quite as muscly as the other one that we have another name for. We'll call her Big Lady. These are all just nicknames, but they're useful for us. It might sound absurd that we've done this, but it's really important for us because we communicate back to our production team which individuals we're talking about. And it's really important for us because, for example, with stories like with the Sausage Pride, one lioness disappearing for a while, to refer to them as, that one lioness that vanished, it doesn't really ring true. So with production team's help, we've sort of given them nicknames, and we do that for a very specific reason. It's not because we want to name them. It's because we actually need to know who we're talking about so we can keep track, so that we can give you the most authentic story that we possibly can. We don't get our individuals mixed up. Of course, there's quite a few more lions out here than there are leopards. However, I would say it's safe that we know each and every individual. Oh, that was a dangerous statement. I think we know each and every individual currently on Djuma at this exact moment.
Well, Jamie, I'm not sure we do, because we don't really know who's been walking where during the course of the night. And these tracks, well, as you can see, are of a young male leopard that was walking around on Rebecca's Road, and it goes contrary to what we've seen of Hosanna over the past few weeks. I have not followed him once where he has walked down a road like this cat has walked. And this particular cat, you can see, walked down the road and then is now lay on the road itself. It's difficult to know if it is from last night or from during the course of the day. And the reason why I say that is because these particular tracks are from on a road where no one drove this morning. So they're fairly fresh. They're from last night, I would imagine. They could have, I suppose, been from early this morning. But you can see where he basically lay down over there, curled up in a ball, and then got up and then lay down again over here and then moved off. Now, what this would indicate is a male that kind of lay on the road and came from very far from the western side. I wouldn't expect this to be Hosanna because it just walked on the road the whole way, straight. And every single time I've followed Hosanna lately, all he does is go straight over the roads and doesn't actually walk down the roads at all. Never see him really doing it at the moment, and so this would be a complete change of behavior if he did this, and it would be different because we haven't seen him do it anywhere else. This morning, again, I followed him. He did not walk on a road again this morning, so it's very interesting. I want to see where they go. If they cut off and they move into this thicket over here and then go across, then we know that they probably could in all likelihood be his if they go towards the dam. But this area that we are in now, this is an area that when Tumba hung around for a few weeks, he used to spend a lot of time walking in this section. So it could be him, it could even be that other male that I was saying. So we're just going to have to try and see if we can follow these tracks and find out. What's interesting is there's also a track for a single male, or single male, I say it's male, it looks like a male track, for a wild dog. So I think it's that lone wild dog that's by itself has also run down this road at some stage, unless the second one maybe ran in the bush, but it looks like just one at this point in time. Now, if it is just one, its chances of us finding it is going to be almost impossible, but we shall persevere and see. But I wonder which leopard this is. I mean, it could be Hosanna. It could just be that he decided he was going to be brave enough to walk on the road and kind of take it easy and not worry too much, but it would just be completely different to what I've witnessed. And I mean, I feel like I should know him quite well by now, given that I've spent a lot of time following Hosanna of late. I've probably followed him in excess of, I would say, easily 20 hours in the last few weeks, and so, you know, would it be a complete change of character and change of the way that he goes about his business. Just want to see if the tracks are still on the road. This is the difficult part, is that the tracks are going in a horrible direction because the sun is now straight behind me, which means that my shadow keeps going onto the road, and that means I can't see anything until I pull off the road, which makes it very difficult. Now you see I've lost them already, and I don't know if they've gone off the road or if they're on the road. Now I'll just quickly jump out and have a look, and while I do that, let's send you across to James with a rather flighty, skittish animal that sometimes runs away.
Well, we've stopped a good deal away from it, so I'm hoping it's not going to be that feisty or skittish. Yeah, no, still pretty skittish. Not being particularly feisty. Stop running! Oh, that's so irritating. We gave them a lot of space. There we go. Now just relax. A sow and her two babies, her two piglets. Now we've looked around where we had Thandi and Lalamba this morning. Nothing further. Did see tracks of Thandi going into Torchwood, which is the east of where we're allowed to go. So she could be there. But she could easily come back at some stage, so we hold the thumbs for that, both for this drive and for the TV show tomorrow. And no sign of Tingana, who also seems to have headed east. But I suspect there could be a bit more action around Buffelshoek Waterhole in a little while, as it gets a bit cooler. No sign of the rest of that pride either. But they could easily be 2 feet off the road in some thick grass. This pig cannot decide what it wants to do. It cannot decide if it's terrified of us or what. And as I know, I think the lion population of the Kruger is probably fairly stable. I forget exactly how many lions there are. I think there are about 3,000 lions, they think, in the entire Kruger National Park. It's 2.2 million hectares. And I'm not sure, in the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, I'm not sure if there or how many there are. That, of course, is 3.5 million hectares. So probably about 4,000 lions. It's a very goodly proportion of the world's lions that are left, or the world's wild lions. 20,000 odd wild lions left in Africa. And so not many at all. And I often think to myself, I often give this example of people saying, well, you know, or thinking 20,000 is quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, it's quite a few. It'll take you a long time to count to 20,000, for example. And also, the bigger the number gets, the less relevance it has in our brains, because we can't conceive of them. So if I say, here's $1 billion or here's $1 trillion, although one is 1,000 times bigger than the other, it almost feels like the same. If I say there are 1 billion stars up there or there are 1 trillion stars, your mind's not actually able to compute and see the difference and understand the difference. And so what that means is that when I say there are 20,000 lions left, you think, well, it doesn't sound like an enormous number, but it sounds okay. But when you compare it with the human population, well, then it's obviously ridiculous. There are 9 billion people odd in the world. Now, again, that's meaningless. You don't really understand. And you say, well, in the continental United States, there are probably about 350 million people. That's also quite difficult to conceive of, but you're now starting to think, well, and just the United States has 350 million. And then we come to just South Africa. South Africa's got about 60 million people living in it. And then we start getting even smaller than that, and you go to a place like Johannesburg, which has probably got in the greater Johannesburg area, about 10 million people living in it. And then you go to a little suburb or a sports stadium, and that's where it really sticks to me, is if you go to a rugby stadium in Johannesburg, or you go to some of the big stadia in the US where football and baseball are played, they take well in excess of 20,000 people. So you could fit the entire lion population of the world into half of one of those big stadia. Now that says to me there's a problem. I always think it's quite a nice way of looking at it. And you think, well, 20,000 not so bad. Well, 20,000 in an area, say 3 times the size of the continental United States, is not a lot. And it's getting smaller. Likewise with leopards, there's a huge stushy in South Africa now because they've opened up the moratorium on leopard hunting here. So people can get a permit to shoot leopards. Not in this area, don't worry, all of our leopards are completely safe. But in other areas it's possible to do. And the science, in theory, says that there are sufficient leopards, but we don't really know how many leopards there are, of course, because they're very secretive creatures. We know how many there are in this area because we see them every day. But in other parts of Africa, nobody has any clue how many there are. And so to open up a sort of hunting quota on an animal whose population dynamics you don't really understand, I think is extremely dangerous. But that is what human beings do, isn't it? We are very dangerous. Right, we're coming towards the waterhole. Well, hopefully we will have some more cheerful things to talk about. This is Chitwa Waterhole. We came down here because I'm afraid I'm feeling a bit overheated. And I was hoping to pick up a bit of a cool breeze coming off this waterhole. Can't be that hot if there are hippos out of the water. And elephants coming down. Timing is perfect, fantastic. Here they are. A big herd. Let's stop here. We'll get a nice shot of the elephants to the right, and then we'll get the hippos out of the water and the elephant going to the water to the left. While you enjoy the elephants, I'm just going to quickly get on the radio. Hope you don't mind, everybody. Afternoon stations, Chitwa, any updates? And there are no updates. If anyone does copy me, there's a large breeding herd heading down towards Chitwa Dam. Alrighty, marvellous. We're going to stay right here. Go anywhere. Because it is very pleasant to be looking at elephants in the afternoon. Yes, poofy poof, especially on a day like this, the water holes are where we need to be. It's very pleasant to visit them. and I can just hear a woodpecker tap, tap, tapping away off to the left. Oxpeckers, here they come. The matriarch has given the order. We are going to the water. She's giving us the eye to say, you stay there, you leave my herd alone. We're going to the water now. There's a definite movement there, a definite order that was given to move forward. I think she's just giving us a checkout to see that we're not a threat. If she comes too much closer than that, I'll think about backing it 100% comfortable, but we're not doing anything nasty, we're not getting close to them, we're in no way threatening them. And it's interesting, as she stands the closest to us, some of the rest of the herds have gone down towards the water to drink. Oh, it's so peaceful. So gentle. We're not going to go anywhere from here. I'm not going to move forward. I'm going to let them get to the water first. And then we'll get down onto the shore, where it's probably a little bit cooler. There'll be a watery breeze blowing. It'll be very pleasant. There they go. I think there are two herds here. Now the second one is moving down. I can just hear the rumbles. I don't think they sound anything like that to elephants. That's what they sound like to me. There we go. You can just hear it, everybody. I'm sure you won't pick it up. I don't think our microphones will pick it up. Very low frequency. Stunning. Now, we'll also just quickly have a look at that starling over there. And what is interesting as we look at the starling, that's it, that's the one, is that the hippopotamus that were out of the water have now got back in. And I suspect that's because of the arrival of the elephants. That's a nice shot. What's up, starling? I think the elephant's a little bit further away than it looks, or is it? No, it's feeding on the same. Is it a trick shot? It's a slight trick shot, everybody. Fergus says the elephant is further away than he looks. You tricked everybody. The trickster. The Riddler, yes. Half of them are not going down to drink, half of them are just wandering over the back of the dam wall, which is a bit odd. That was me killing a fly. There is some water down the other side there. I can't imagine it's cleaner than this water, though. Poofy Poof, I'm not sure. I've tried a couple of different jokes with elephants and I haven't yet managed to get a laugh out of them. A sense of humour, you know, who knows? How do you define a sense of humour? I mean, they're playful enough when they're little. As they're adults, they become less and less playful, but that's the same for every mammal. It's the same for human beings. A sense of humour. I don't know. I really can't answer that question. I imagine they... And those that have the best senses of humour probably, or both have the best understanding of humour, probably live the most relaxed lives. Now, I wonder if we shouldn't try and get a little closer. Let's take a little drive down to the water. Go ahead. Yeah, copy, thank you. Alright, let's try and get a nice position here. While we do that, over to the Masai Mara, where Jamie Patterson, I hope, has not had to batten down her hatches just yet.
The Masai Mara, where the scavengers get the best of the Great Migration, and even though these vultures are unlikely to get anything yet, for them it's worth hanging out around here because they will keep killing things, and at one point, or at some point, they're going to actually be unable to eat the things that they catch and kill. So for the vultures, this is the perfect spot to actually sit and wait for their next meal. Lioness is not quite willing to relinquish control over their kill just yet. That does explain why this lioness keeps getting up and moving off in that direction. Oh, wonderful sliver of light. That's so perfect. Well done. Clouds, sun and lioness, and it's gone. Trying to distract us from the rapidly approaching rain, which I think is just about to hit us. I'm hoping it hits us now rather than later, because it becomes very difficult to follow an animal with all the covers down. Very hard to spotlight when you're in a tent. I'm desperately trying to think of an elephant pun for elephants with senses of humour. I can't think of one. There must be one. Oh, this lioness is going to chase this vulture. Tails flicking angrily. Must be where the second kill is. Lou has provided me with an appalling pun, but she has asked me not to repeat it. I think it was the... Don't worry, Lou, I think that was the relatively obvious one. That was the trunk reference. And where they keep things. No! Oh, here it comes, Manu, we better move. I'm going to move so that my back is to it, or try to. Just this wall of water coming at me. Oh dear. No, it's coming from this side. It's going up into the mountain and then hitting us this way. Alright. Okay, we're going to shift around and find ourselves a relatively sheltered spot with our backs to the storm. Let's go and see what James's presumably hysterical elephants are up to.
I didn't get any of that, I'm afraid. Yes, elephants here too, yes, absolutely. Drinking, having a good time. Oh, look at the one on the top there. Removing all of the slightly nostalgic, not very, but slightly nostalgic for the times when we had battened down the hatches in the Mara there, especially as I've never actually experienced a storm with the proper covers that they have now. And then you'd sit with your backs to the wind and open up the hot box and pour coffee and have a couple of biscuits, and while the rain fell outside. I loved that. I thought that was great fun. It's not going to be doing that here at any time soon. I think they have about 900 millimeters of rain in the Mara every year. And it feels, they're going to have a lot more than that this year, because it certainly feels there like it's a lot wetter than it is here. We get about 600 millimeters, so it's about, well, in a good year we get 600. So it's about a third again, a half again. Oh, a squirrel having a drink. Well spotted, Fergus. I think he's going to be taken by a baby crocodile. That's hilarious. That is very funny. How the tail went every time it took a little bit of a drink. Off it goes, high speed. You've got to move as a squirrel with that sort of speed. It goes up into the jackalberry tree behind us. You don't move at that sort of speed, of course. Well, something's going to nab you. Little one having a bit of a drink there. I believe Tristan has found something called Sausage 2.0.
I have indeed, yes. So sitting on the mound next to me is our favorite sausage that we get, and not the ones in Kenya, but old Hosanna, who is sitting as regally and as beautifully as he could ever sit on top of his termite mound. There he is. There he's not far from the dam. In fact, some of you from the dam cam, if you look straight across the dam, might spot me. We are on Mvubu Road, and we're not far at all. So if you can see the other side. But we decided, those tracks that I saw, I've kind of followed them up towards quarantine, and I thought they must be his from last night. It's just interesting that his behavior is changing slightly and that he is walking on roads. And so I thought, well, I'm going to come and do a loop around the dam, because it's now the time of the day where Hosanna should start coming out. And well, as we came up onto Mvubu Road, my eyes caught something moving to the right of us, and there, sitting on top of the mound, was Hosanna, just posing as beautiful in the late afternoon light as you could ever see. Now, I believe zoomies are now searching for us. Must I wave? Hello, there we go, we're waving, you can see us over here. I can see the dam cam, it's straight across from where I am, so if they just point straight from where the dam cam is across onto Mvubu, they should find the car, and they should find Hosanna just on the other side of the car from us. But he really is a beautiful boy, isn't he? I love his eyes in the afternoon or morning light when that sun is just rising or setting. Because of that orange kind of coloration, they really just get emphasized that much more. They become this deep orange color. And what he's doing is very clever, is he's sitting a little bit further away from the dam, and I think he's just watching what's going on, waiting for maybe something like impalas or nyalas to start coming down to drink. I think he knows where everything's going to start moving, and so he's going to start making his way this side to be able to start trying to kind of hunt and into the evening. I hope that he spends all day at the pan, or all night should I say, at the pan tonight, make our lives in the morning a lot easier. I'm praying that that happens. I suppose it's a good sign that he's very close. Hopefully he'll hunt, and maybe he'll even be lucky tonight. It's been a while since he's actually had some luck at the dam itself, but look how big those shoulders have gotten. He's still got to fill out a little bit around the head area, but really very cool to be able to find him and spend some time with him again. And I was saying earlier that I've spent about 20 hours with him, and now that's just 20 hours I would imagine of him moving. I probably have spent, I don't even know now how many hours it must be with this cat over the last 3 weeks. It must rack up into probably close to at least 50 hours following him about and spending time sleeping with him. This morning he almost put me to sleep because he was curled up in this tightest of tight balls, and he looked as though he was so comfy, and we sat for about an hour kind of watching him before he started to move, and it was definitely difficult to keep our eyes open. Hello, boy. Have you had a nice day today? Nice to see you as well. It's old ever. It's so cool to spend time with him. Where are you off to, Hosanna? What are you going to go stalk? I did see a Nyala bull just now, so it looks like he's on his way to the pan. I think we should start calling him Pan Pet from now on, because he's just kind of this male leopard that's just hanging around this pan all the time. And like I say, long may it last. We have been so spoiled. For this to have been, or to have happened at this particular pan has been phenomenal, because like I say, we're spoilt in that we get to see him obviously most drives, and thanks to a lot of the time, thanks to you guys that watch the dam cam, have been able to find him. And two, because, well, you know, he gets to spend all day and you guys get to watch him for vast tracts of time, which, you know, is unusual. It's very seldom you're going to get to spend as much time with a leopard watching him as what we've had with Hosanna over the course of the last few weeks. So it really has been very special to have him around here, and we've all benefited hugely from his presence, that's for sure. It's given us so many amazing sightings. Right, now he's off towards the dam. I do need to actually tell everybody that I found him. I was so excited that I found him that I forgot that I actually need to radio this in, because this is what we do out here, is that we do actually have to let people know and tell are finding animals when we are looking for them. So I will have to let people know. There are nyala that are drinking, so I can actually see them at the nest, well, in front of the nest cams at the moment, and that's what I think he's watching. Unfortunately for him though, a nyala is probably a little on the big side for him still. I mean, he would be able to bring it down, I think, but it would be a serious struggle and he would lose it. I mean, hyenas would take it from him in 2 minutes if he unfortunately did bring it down. But you can see the nyalas straight through there now. They're just on my right hand side up at the dam itself, and then Hosana down below here and watching them move around. So let's see what he gets up to. In the meantime though, while he figures out his best strategy to get closer, let's send you back across to James and, well, the playful Ellies at Chitwa Dam.
Well, they're being relatively playful. I am, again, both, well, jealous and impressed by Tristan's ability to track and find leopards. I do think it's exceptional. While I'm sitting here, of course, it's much easier to see things like elephants than it is leopards. Sometimes leopards pitch up at waterholes, you know, and you get lucky. They're not doing much, these things, but they are being quite playful. They've had their drink. And now they seem to be eating, but not really. I think, you know what, I think it's a bit of a break for them. I get the feeling very much with elephants that eating becomes a total chore. It's not going to work for them. It's not like for us where it's going, it's like a sort of relief for the day. It certainly is in our camp, where our chefs are fantastically impressive cooks. There are 2 sets of ostriches now close to Djuma. I can't get to them, I'm afraid. They've crossed out. But there are ostriches around, which is quite interesting. I'm just hearing that on the radio now. Couldn't explain. I found tracks of ostriches the other day, of course. So you can see, nobody's eating in that herd. They're just kind of milling about, tossing branches off the edge of the dam wall, thinking about perhaps having to go back to the chore of trying to eat, as opposed to looking forward to it like we do when we go back to camp. Paul, I think the tiny baby's there, probably about 18 months, that one on the left. And one on the right a bit older, maybe 2 years or so. I'm guessing that one on the left is pretty small. It's interesting that they're both next to the same cow now. They are pretty I'm 99% sure that they're not twins. They look more of a size now. But I think it's just that the females in this herd are so closely related that, you know, the youngsters feel comfortable around all of them. Now they'll have to think about going back to the serious business of eating. You can see one of them, or 2 of them, picking up a few sticks. There, the little ones, interestingly, are flapping their ears to the heat, but not the adults. The adults are obviously not suffering from the heat at all. They're obviously feeling relatively cool. Right, well, that's the elephants. Let's have a look up in the tree there, where there are a whole lot of birds. Oh, MGN, sorry about that. We'll tell you about that while we look at the birds there. Oxpeckers. A elephant will take roughly 2 years to master the use of its trunk. For the first year, it's almost useless. The second year, it does slowly start to become useful. It's a very complicated thing to learn to use. A bit like a human being learning to walk, really. It takes that kind of period. But to begin with, it's really fairly hopeless. So those are red-billed oxpeckers. Just tilt down if you don't mind, Ferg. There's something below them. No, more oxpecker. More oxpecker. Well, Jamie, despite the rain, is still managing to get a picture. I'd like you to ask her what she's going to have for her tea, what eats specifically she's going to have with her tea as she watches lions playing in the rain.
That's the plan. I hope that I can keep it that way despite the rain. So obviously the rain has started to fall and the We Know Pride youngsters are now up and about and feeling quite playful and energetic. Or they were, of course. Now they're going to sit down as I said that. One of them... Oh! Just... I don't want that piece of wildebeest. Just slightly macabre. There's a fresh piece of meat went flying across from it. Wandering off with a bone. The young male is in there somewhere as well. And that once was a young wildebeest, and then they caught it. I think it was this morning. I'm not actually sure when they made this particular kill, but they've caught a wildebeest. It is now almost completely devoured, and it's a time for them to conserve. For now, the rain is just drizzle, essentially, which is great for us. It means that we can actually keep one side of the vehicle covering open. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how the Mara rain covers work, essentially we've got flaps on all 4 sides of the vehicle that we can roll up or down depending on exactly what's happening and which direction the wind is coming from. So if you hear pitter-pattering on our roof, that is why. It's quite cozy, actually. I'm just really hoping it goes away before it gets dark. Midwood, it has gone down a little bit from the start of the afternoon, so it is now 71 degrees Fahrenheit according to Lou, which is 22 degrees centigrade here in the Mara. It's quite temperate, so James has been moaning about the heat in the low veld, of course, because they're now coming out of winter and going into the long hot summers. In the Mara, we're quite close to the equator, very close to the equator, I suppose, like most other places, but we are very high up in altitude, so the climate stays very similar throughout the year. It's still quite a lot colder than you would expect it to be this close to the equator. So essentially, compared to the temperatures in Djuma, where it can fluctuate from really, really very hot, over 40 degrees, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and then go right down to just over 0 degrees centigrade, or around about sort of mid-30s Fahrenheit. Here it stays between the temperatures of about 13 degrees centigrade, which is, what is that, 56 or so, 50, somewhere around there, and goes up to not much hotter than about 30, so about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, it's been so long since I've had those conversions in my head, or had to do them. No, you guys, why would you go in the front of the vehicle? She's going to stalk, and poor Buddy's going to have to give up on the shot. Or he, it looks like the young male. I'm so sorry, we're going to have a windscreen in our way shortly. And it's Scott's windscreen, so it's got what Brent nicknames the Spider-Man app on it. How's that shot cheating you there, Manu? Well, she looks like she might actually relieve herself. So I think I can move for you. Or do you want to hold? You just hold it. Alright. Manu wants to gamble. Oh, good gamble. Okay, but now I'll put my foot in on the brake. I'm going to have to take it off. Oh! That's the top of the windscreen. Getting up, getting playful. They love this weather, of course. They don't care that it's an inconvenience. They couldn't be happier. Would you like to show everyone what you can film right now, Manu? Hold on. I'll shift around and then we can get a better view. Hopefully it'll keep me in the right place still with the wind. Okay, I'll stop here for now. I think we're alright. If it starts coming in, then I'll shift around again. I should have put the windscreen, the top flap down. I'm also, at the same time as all of this, trying to write a script for a very disturbing sighting and struggling to find the words to do so. But it has become somewhat urgent. Hey, little boy, look at your scraggly beard. You've got so big. This is the young male who was sibling to the little lioness that disappeared. I love young male lions. They always look so... They just look adolescent. I'm just going to go say hello to him. Also love lions' tails when they do that. It's almost like a, come on, follow me then. Oh no, don't go that way. Not when it's getting dark. Straight into the rain. I might have to put the front down. I think we're okay for now. I think she's calling to where calling that other lioness. Alright, I'm going to have to put one extra flap down here so that we can continue to film these lovely lions. So I'm going to send you across back over to South Africa while we do that, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Well, good luck, Jamie. The flaps on the Mara vehicles are a long process, so hopefully it will be not too difficult and Jamie will eventually get it right. But as you can see, Hosanna has moved his way slowly into a little thicket. He's watching some impalas that are very, very far away at the moment. Unfortunately for him, I doubt that he's going to be able to get anywhere near them, and the simple reason is that they're on the opposite of the big dry dam, and so there's really no cover for him to get to them, unless what he's doing is waiting for them all to file past to go drink, and then he's going to sneak around the dam wall and then around that way. That could be an idea that he might have, but let's see how he goes. You can see the hamster is spinning on the wheel at the moment as he's calculating where he's going to go. The little tail is twitching a bit, and he's staring and listening and looking and trying to think where he needs to go. Now, he missed his chance a little bit because he needed to run across this dam while the impalas were still quite far away. The problem is that it really is very open here, and so it's not an easy place for him to get. What he might do is just sit on this fringe while and wait for it to get dark, and then once it's dark, it's going to become much easier for him just to slowly ghost his way across and then get into his favorite little grassy knoll where he's able to then watch what's going on. But isn't he beautiful? Look at him. He's such a character, and we, like I say, are so spoiled that we just keep managing to see him. He really has given us the most incredible sightings of late. You know, you wouldn't expect to see a leopard as much as we see him. You know, you'd expect every kind of couple days that we would not find him, but yet he just seems to turn up day in and day out. And like I say, it comes to this pan, because a lot of the time the reason we find him is because he's been at the pan at a certain time frame, and a direction is given to us as to where he goes, and that helps us to be able to find him. But it really is amazing that he's as tolerant of us as he is. You know, you would think that maybe some days he would feel like Thandi. I'm pretty sure Thandi does this to us, and she just doesn't feel like being seen, and so she'll just zigzag and move until, you know, people give up. But he seems to be just tolerant of the fact that we kind of come in and out every day, and maybe there's some degree of him actually kind of using vehicles these days in order to hunt. I've watched him very closely and I've been trying to see if he does, but it doesn't seem like he's made that connection just yet. He definitely doesn't just stop moving when you turn off and only move when you have the vehicle running, so he hasn't kind of gotten that far, but he maybe just likes the company of the vehicles. Who knows? It's an interesting kind of take on things, because there's definitely some leopards that don't really want to be found, but this guy just every single day is posing somewhere, somehow, and doesn't seem to be too stressed about what he's doing. I really hope in his case that he does actually get himself a really big meal at some point, like a good size impala that he can put up in his his favorite jackalberry tree, and that he can get to 2 days before sausage version 1, which is Tingana, arrives and takes it away from him. But because this is what happens, is that there's sausage 1 and sausage 2, and both of them like to have full bellies. Hosanna intrigues me though, in talking about being these full-bellied cats, is he never seems to really have lost much condition since he's been here. Now we know he's been killed a few times and we've seen him eat, but there's been quite big gaps in between, and we haven't found him on a carcass, but yet his tummy never seems to kind of go in anymore. It just kind of stays there. So what he's actually getting into his tummy in the course of the nights that we're not seeing, I don't know. Maybe he's successful and he catches scrub hares every now and then, or maybe he gets those kind of things and just hoovers them down, or birds or something like that. But it's interesting how he's managed to maintain a really good condition. His tummy always looks really good. He doesn't look like he's emaciated and hungry at any point. Hosanna, what you thinking? Definitely trying to work out how he's going to get to these impala, but I'm afraid I think he's missed the boat a little bit. He needed to be at that pan a little bit quicker. So leopards, Rosalind, don't really like to swim. It's not that they won't swim, but they don't to swim. If they have to, then they will go through water. Generally though, I find with leopards and working on the rivers, so the Sabi and the Sand River, most of the leopards will prefer to find somewhere where they can cross without actually having to get themselves wet. So they'll use boulders and they'll jump across those and try and get through in that regard, and try and only go through water that's quite shallow. So they don't really want to go through deep water, because if a leopard has to swim, generally, invariably in Africa, there's crocodiles, and crocodiles are a major threat even to a leopard. So you might see him yawning now, and that might indicate that he's going to move. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, I have seen a leopard swim once, but they would try and avoid it as much as possible. In the delta, in Okavango, they do wade across quite often, but they prefer to try and keep their paws as dry as possible. Now, I was saying that he's been watching impalas, and they are on the nest cam, so let's send you across to Steve, who is sitting there watching the impalas from the safety of his tent.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode in the nest. I'm here at Vuatela Pan, and the herd of impala have come down and indeed attracted the attention of the little chief, who's not very far away at all, probably 80 meters or so, but they come down in their numbers, quite tentative. He's watching. I don't think there's much hope for him with this many animals that are coming down, because coming down in a group, safety numbers is generally the way it works. But they've been waiting for some time. Oh, there's a little terrapin moving around in the bottom there. Just poked his head out. Quite a nice... Well, Hosanna has quite enjoyed eating terrapins. First time I got him back at this pan, over a month ago already now, he had a large terrapin in his mouth, but I don't think he quite knew what to do with it. I think it was a little bit too big. He quite enjoys a little bit more meat of the fleshy variety without the shell. You can see how the impala are swarming down. A little bit jumpy. They can possibly smell the leopard in the air. They're not sure. There's a residual smell of predators around this watering hole from daily occurrences. Leopards and lions are moving through on quite a regular basis, and that's what makes these animals very jumpy. If you've ever watched your friends getting eaten alive, it would make you a little bit tentative to walk down to walk. Paul, indeed, is a beautiful view. The sun just setting there in the back. I've been sitting here for some time, and the sun is now in a really nice position. It's been quite bright for the longest time. We didn't get the best sort of light on that side, but it's now looking very, very pretty through the trees, with Vuatela Lodge in the background. It's been quite a nice warm day, as James was commenting earlier. and the need to drink is heightened for these animals. But how long will they stick around? Not long enough. Probably be moving off shortly, and Osana will have to move closer into position to be able to catch individuals that are not as attentive. But a large group of boys here, you can see with the horns, a couple ladies intermingled. A little bit of a social event on this Friday afternoon. There's a lady just come in from the right. Well, you see how jumpy they are. It just takes the smallest little bit of a jump for all of them to run. And now they're all standing beautifully with the reflection. It's almost as if you see these individuals on the left of the screen, two of them are looking directly at him. It's almost as if that is what's happening. They know something's wrong. They have to drink though. Well, we're going to stay here watching the nest very closely for any more activity. And in the meantime, let's go over to James and...
Well, Steve doesn't really have a choice, of course, because he has to stay where he is because he's in the tent. It's not like he can go anywhere. I suppose he could step outside and look at the sun that's thinking about setting. He could order up some tea and see if anyone brings it to him. I think it'd be unlikely. But... yes, I think he has tried, as Fergus says. Yesterday he said, if anybody would like to bring me coffee in the tent, that would be lovely. And everybody looked at their shoes and then down at the ground and pretended to be very busy doing something else. So I didn't think he got anything in the tent. Oh, yeah! Ukhume yini? Akunanchumu. Okay. Yeah, ndivona inkonzo le. All right, inkomo Arab. I'm just talking to Arab, our tracker, who is looking rather depressed because Thandi and Tlalamba have absconded into Taunchwood, somewhere over here. Come back. There's TV tomorrow. Please come back. At least the... I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say it, just for in case. Just for in case it makes a difference. You know I was going to say, of course, everyone. I'm not going to say it, but I was going to say it. Now I'm not going to say it because by saying it, I could easily jinx the thing that I was going to talk about when I stopped saying what I was going to say. We're just driving gently along here to see if we can't get sight of the ostrich. The emus, the African emus. They are not, of course, emus, they are ostriches. What is that? It's not an ostrich. Oh, Paula, thank you. You say it's so cool hearing me speak the local language. It's a termite mine. Fantastic stuff. Never mind, Fergus. This is the language, of course, Xitsonga. I have a passing knowledge of it. People who do not speak it at all think I'm fluent, but people who do speak it patiently try and speak it back to me until I lose track, and then they switch to English. There is a yellow-billed hornbill. Stop press, everybody. Put that in the weekend paper. Well done, Fergus. You found it. All the luck today. Yellow-billed hornbill, lion, elephant, hippopotamus, squirrel drinking, red-billed oxpecker, warthog, waterbuck. What else? Terrapin. Hoppity hop, hop, hop. Now they leave a unique track. Unsurprisingly, every species leaves a unique track, but it's an unusual looking track. You see the way they walk sideways? They hop sideways? That's not really doing it, is it? Yes, this one is a non-sideways walking hornbill. About them. Doop, 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 doop. Surprised looking. Lifting its tail like it's sort of big skirts that it has to hold out its back. Run, run, run. And finally, something to eat. Something charcoal braised. There should be sound effects for each step he takes. You're absolutely correct. They should be played, Louise, on a flute, I suspect, or a clarinet, maybe. Clarinet's more cat, though, I suppose. Yes, also one of those. Those would work very well. A small metal xylophone that we had as children, says Louise. Yep, that would work. Bling, 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 bling. Bling, bling, bling. Bling, 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 bling. Bling, 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 bling. Bling, 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 bling. Bling, bling. Imagine somebody's just tuned into this stream and they see a hornbill jumping up and down. They hear some total idiot going bing, 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 bing. They're probably immediately switched off, thinking that this is possibly some bizarre cult or stream with a cult following. You say this is how viral videos are made, says Louise. I'm not sure. I don't think that's going to go viral. Anyway, we're keeping up our search as we go across to Tristan, who has spent, I'd say, probably... I would like to know collectively how many hours Tristan thinks he has spent with a sleeping leopard. I'm going to go 2 years.
Well, James, I don't know, actually, to be honest with you. I think I've actually spent more time with sleeping lions in my guiding career than I did with sleeping leopards. As, you know, obviously, when you're guiding a leopard, you don't get to spend much time with them because there's often a lot of other guys that want to come in and, you know, guests, funny enough, it's weird, guests like leopards, but they prefer sitting with lions for some odd reason. And so, you know, I mean, I know that lions and leopards, either one of them when they're sleeping, can not be the most entertaining creatures. In fact, they can be rather difficult to kind of enthuse over. But I don't know. I mean, I suppose I spent a long time with them since I've been at Wild Earth. I would actually like to know. It would be interesting to know how many minutes or how many hours I've spent with a leopard since I've joined SafariLive. That would be an interesting statistic. I think it would be quite a lot, actually, to be honest. We all know that it's a problem that I have, and that, you know, generally spend most of my days looking around for them. I've been trying to diversify, though, over the last few weeks. I've been trying to do some elephants in between the leopards, but it's not been going well because Hassan has been around, and that means that we've spent a lot of time with him. But I honestly don't know. It would be interesting to know how many hours I've spent. It's a lot, that's for sure. Watching leopards sleep is a common part of the job, and I suppose it's, you know, one of those things. The thing is with Hosanna, though, is, you know, if you just spend half an hour with him sleeping, eventually at some point he's going to give you something. That's one of the reasons why I'm with him, is because he is so active. He's a cat that doesn't just sit still for all day, every day. He kind of moves around a lot. So I'm sure that will change as he get older, but for now, he's just such a pleasure to follow around because he's such a busy boy. Now, just now you saw that he was kind of pretending like he was sleeping. Now, he's not pretending that he's sleeping. He's basically giving an ear out to these impala and watching, and in the hopes that they'll start to keep quiet and stop snorting. They haven't seen him at all. They're just snorting because they can probably smell all over that pan that there is leopard, and they can see us, and so they're all shouting but looking in complete different directions. None of them have any idea that he's sitting here, and so what he's doing I think is just sitting and playing the waiting game, knowing full well that conditions are going to start favoring him in a few short hours. So he's going to start going into darkness, and then hunting here is going to become infinitely more easier. The problem with that is that infinitely easier, not more easier. That's not English at all. Naughty. So the problem is that the impalas will probably move off by that point. You'll find that they invariably will drink and then they go away. They not ones that come to drink much during the night. They don't like to get ambushed. But what we have seen from the dam cam over the last few evenings, it seems as though the more Hosana takes a duiker, the more come here, and there's duikers that just stream through to this pan all night long. So I'm pretty sure he'll hope for one of those. It would be nice if he grabbed one. An impala would be obviously best first prize for him because it's a lot more meat, but a duiker certainly won't be sneezed at by the little chief, and he's going to be very patient, and he's going to wait and see what he can do in order to get those impalas to relax, and then he'll start to move towards the pan. So this is an interesting one, Louise, and I'm not quite sure actually about the answer, but I'll address it anyway because, well, it's an interesting subject. So Casey, you're asking that the cats that spend more time in trees, so things like a leopard, do they get struck by lightning more often? I don't know the answer to that. And the reason why I don't know is because I've never found a dead leopard that's been struck by lightning. So I'm pretty sure that the thing with cats is that they are very, very clever and they're very perceptive to changes in weather. And so you'll find that if there's going to be a bit of a change and there's going to be some rain or a big thunderstorm, let's be honest, a thunderstorm build-up is not a quiet thing. I mean, there's thunder that starts to roll in the distance, is that most of the leopards will probably think to themselves, hang on a second, being in a tree is not the best idea for this, and will actually come down and go and find themselves a thick area in order to get out of the rain. And so that probably means that they actually don't get struck at all because they're quite aware of the conditions and generally will come out of trees before they do anything or get themselves into any problems whatsoever. That's what I think. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but it's pretty much how I would feel about it. And I've, like I say, never found a dead cat from a lightning strike. It's not to say it won't happen, but I've never read anything about leopards being prone to being struck by lightning. I'm pretty sure they're sensitive enough to get down out of the tree before a lightning bolt comes out of the blue and hits them, I think. I mean, obviously we know that there was a duiker last year that did not see a lightning bolt coming and unfortunately was smoked by a bolt of lightning that hits a knobthorn that it was lying underneath. So it does happen, but I doubt it would be. What are you going to do now, Hassan? Are you watching the Franklins? He's watching the Franklins. Now, while I'm sitting here, I've got this clear view straight to a marula tree behind me to the right. Now, what we need is everybody collectively needs to send good vibes into the air, because what we need collectively is, we'll just stay on Hosanna for 2 seconds before we talk about this, because he's watching these Franklins and I want to see if he hisses at them, because sometimes you'll find with cats, Tumba used to do it all the time. He used to growl and hiss at Franklins when they used to walk around near him. He used to get quite upset by them because they used to make a lot of noise. So here comes the Franklin. Let's see, either this Franklin is about to get hissed at or it's going to get smoked by a leopard and is not going to see it coming, but I doubt it. A leopard has to be very fast to catch a Franklin. Franklins are quite clever birds. I don't know where the Franklin went now. It was running towards him, but he doesn't seem to be too phased anymore. Or he's just playing the cool cat game. No, eyes are closing, so he's not too interested. Anyway, so we have to send the good vibes out into the universe that one day Hosanna is going to sit or come into that tree over there. You'll see it now, that big marula, because every day that I drive past that tree, I think to myself, this would be the most wonderful marula for a leopard to be lounging in, particularly that part if it goes up and down the tree. Imagine how nice that would be. You can see it's afternoon sun on this side, and or early morning you have it on the other side. So it's the perfect tree because you'll just get good light either side of it, and you'll get the most incredible sunsets from behind that tree. So everybody needs to send good vibes out that Hosanna will one day make a kill and drag it into that tree. I suspect that he wouldn't, though, and I'll tell you why. because that tree currently has 0 leaves, and so to drag something to that tree would be just as much effort to drag it to the jackalberry on the other side of the dam wall, because it's just opposite basically, and that has got foliage and it makes it much easier for him to hide his carcass. 1, 2, it stays out of the sun and so it will stay fresher for longer, and 3, he can go and sit up there without being spotted. A carcass at a tree like that is going to be spotted by anything that comes past you, whether it be a lion, leopard, hyenas, anything like that will be able to see it. Now, talking about other predators, Jamie is still in the Mara. She's still sitting with the Niconico Pride and babysitting, and I wonder if she's got her flaps up now and if the lions are still playing about in the cool afternoon after the rain.
I am still in the Mara. Surprise, 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 surprise. I still haven't finished my script either, but that's okay. We will continue to balance and juggle these things, and it is a beautiful scene in front of us with a young lion that desperately tried to climb this boulder and was so fat that she fell off it. It was hilarious. Unfortunately, at that point I had my rain covers down, so we didn't manage to get any of it. We've actually escaped the worst of the rain, and they've even led us up into this steep drainage system, which I thought would be a nightmare to try and drive around in. And it turned out it's actually not that bad. And we've managed to get all the way up here, and we're sitting with them with their second kill. So it's much easier to understand now why that lioness kept running on back up here. There's a second young wildebeest kill here. So for the Owinos, it has been a truly successful day. I can't quite gauge how much is left of this. Oh, there we go. That's actually not that young of a... That's a big wildebeest kill, by the looks of it. Or relatively big wildebeest kill. Definitely bigger than the little one that they were eating earlier. So our lions of the Niconico Pride tucking in. I'm hoping secretly that this means they're going to sleep all night. Last year, when we were following them, it was raining and we lost them. And then I was with Viam at the time. Viam and I found them again in this awkward position, too close to where they were. But we managed to get the camera on them because it's pitch black and we don't sit with lights on them all night, obviously. So our eyes, basically we see through the camera, or the eyes of the camera with the infrared on. And we were sitting watching them, and it was my turn to keep watch, and Viam's turn to sleep. And I fell asleep with my head up against the steering wheel. Manu's having a chuckle back there. I fell asleep with my head resting on the steering wheel, and I promise I only put it there just for 2 seconds to rest my eyes from staring at the screen. And an hour later, I sat up, and they were gone. Debbie would like to know if we ever sleep or if we survive on short naps. Do we sleep, Manu? No, not really. Short naps, I mean, as occasionally you get one really spectacular 6-hour night of sleep. I'm trying to actually talk through the fog of exhaustion. We do sleep. We do, definitely. I'm an 8-hour-a-day type of person. I've got a very high metabolism, and my body likes to shut down solidly for 8 hours. So during these periods, we obviously work quite hard. There's a lot we really want to show you. We want to spend as much time as possible with these animals. And it goes in swings and roundabouts. Sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a very, very long one. Coffee and tea is a wonderful thing. I don't drink coffee, but tea does keep us going. And I can smell our dinner emanating from the back. That will help us keep us awake. What do you think, girl? Are we going to give us an easy evening or a difficult evening? Looking at you, I think you're going to give us an easy evening. Sometimes you have evenings where they go to sleep and they wake up in exactly the same place the next morning, which are wonderful. And then other times they'll walk you 20 kilometers and you're actually sort of nodding off over the steering wheel. But I'm not complaining. Just to clarify, I'm not complaining. We get to see things that nobody else, people in the world, never have a chance to see. You can't beat that. That's worth a few big yawns, I would say. Vultures waiting in the wings. They'll be going to bed soon. Probably less than impressed with the uncomfortable tree that they've been saddled with. Omkar, you say that some breathing exercises are good for clearing brain fog. Yes, I completely agree with you. Please recommend your best breathing exercise. I'll try one now. Let's see how long I can get away with being quiet for. Probably can't. Problem is also, if I focus on deep breathing, it might be the end of me. I might fall asleep mid-segment and you'll never see me again. I've never done that. I have fallen asleep seconds before the live, and so has Dave. Dave actually fell asleep against the camera. Dave! He woke up on the words live through our ear. We were starting the show. Oh, goodness. Oh, I'm quickly going to send you across to Tristan. I hope I got that right.
Indeed, Jamie, you did, and don't fall asleep. But look at this. There's a suicidal scrub here that has just walked into Hosanna. And now we've got a game of cat and rabbit. Now, apparently there's also a wild dog that's running towards us as well. So we're about to have absolute pandemonium that's about to break out. Apparently something towards Gowrie Dam, they're saying. But there they go. There's impalas running. So we've got a leopard behind us with the scrub here, and the wild dog is obviously running towards the pan as well. So if Steve is watching the dam cam or the nest cams, he's going to be able to probably see it. Now, did the scrub hare disappear, or is it still there? No, it's still there. I don't know where to look. Wild dog behind us, leopard here that's got a scrub hare taking place, and like I said, it's either brave or the most stupid scrub hare I've ever seen in my life, because I don't think it even knows Hosanna's there. It's eating. It's ridiculous. Now the dog is running away from us at the moment. Oh, he missed, unfortunately. Now I'm going to just go quickly so I can show you the wild dog as well, because the wild dog has run. Sorry, there it is, there's the dog. There goes the scrub hare. There's a leopard. Is running everywhere. Absolute pandemonium. There's the dog running right up at the top. Now that's the track of the wild dog that we had earlier, the single dog by itself. How crazy is this? This is absolutely insane. Now, Hosanna's going to have to be careful because wild dog and leopards don't like each other at all. Now, Hosanna's watching the wild dog. You can see that. Absolute chaos. So, it's amazing to see. This is just absolute pandemonium. I'm just going to turn around. What is going on in this place at the moment? This pan is just the most epic place to spend a lot of time, because you've just got things coming in from all directions. But the dog has chased the impalas up onto quarantine side. Hosanna is still kind of slinking about, and like I was saying, they need to be a bit careful because dogs hate leopards, leopards hate dogs, and it's a bad combination. Oh, here he is. Look, he is beautiful. He is absolutely the most beautiful leopard when he wants to pose like this. Now, Lou, I don't know if you can maybe ask if Steph is around or one of the other guys. It sounds like somebody's gotten stuck in the Mulwati and they need a bit of a hand. Now, obviously, we can't go, but maybe James can go and he can help out. But somebody needs a little bit of a hand. I wonder if that dog's going to come back again. It's going to be interesting to see, because the dog is just ran up onto the top and was kind of coming down. The impalas is what made it all kind of go crazy, is because they ended up kind of running and the dog then chased that rather than Hosanna himself. So it's more that he's, I think, watching this dog and is a little bit kind of where is what's going on. Now, leopards do kill wild dogs quite regularly. It does happen. I've seen evidence of it quite often, but I wonder if he maybe is just a little nervous as to what's going on. How many times he's encountered wild dogs would be interesting to see, because Just so you know, Louise, it is Pippa that is stuck, so if you can maybe just tell Conrad to give her a call, he'll have her number. Look at that. Is that not spectacular? He is magnificent. Very, very special cat. I wonder if that dog will come back. I think if the dog missed and is no longer chasing, we might see it starting to come back down towards the water point, and where it will then obviously drink water and kind of try and recuperate again. See, he's just perked up again. I'm just trying to watch on this hill because it's quite a nice view from where we are. We should be able to see quite quickly. Rosh, no, I can't believe the scrub hare escaped either. It was ridiculous how it managed, well, how it got to that point anyway. It just literally walked straight up to him. We watched it walking in a straight line at him, and how it didn't see that there was a leopard standing there is beyond me completely. I have absolutely no idea. And then obviously, as Hosana turned, that scrub hare got away. But it just goes to show how quick a scrub hare is and how fast they move. It's not an easy prey animal to catch. Sometimes leopards get it right. I've seen a few different females pretty good at it, but Hosana doesn't seem to be that good, let's be honest. He's missed a lot of scrub hares. We've watched him doing it many times, and it just doesn't seem like he can get it right at this stage. But that is absolutely spectacular. I think he's nervous now, though. I think he's watching. I hope that some part of me hopes that this wild dog doesn't come back, and I'll tell you why. There comes James. Now let's see if James is going to get up the hill. He's going to be behind Hosana now. There's a nice little two-shot for James and Hosana. Hello, James. Hello, Hosana. Hey, wave, James. Yes, James is waving. Good job, James. Very good wave. The Queen would be proud. And off Hosana goes. Going to go around the car now. So let's just reposition ourselves once again. Absolutely unbelievable that we've got so much going on all at once. Now, interestingly enough, I've actually got a friend of mine that's on a vehicle here as well that I trained with at Singita, which is quite amazing. Anyway, I just saw him now, so I was just taken aback a bit, but anyway, we'll try and see if we can kind of position ourselves better with Hosana. In the meantime, let's send you back across to James, who is trying to follow up on the wild dog.
I'm trying to follow up on the dogs, but they are running. They will leave. They will be very frenetic in their movements. It will be difficult to find them, but I'm going to try. We're going south as fast as we can. I will have to stick on the radio. Oh no, they're just talking absolute garbage. They just apparently saw the dogs going herring past somewhere around here. I'm going to take a chance and say we should head towards quarantine. Let's go. What? Go again. Go again with that. Dogs on the way back to the pan. Hold on tight. Back. We might have a double sighting here. We might have to pull out, in which case Tristan can take the dog as well, if they're in the same sighting. But there are only two people there, so we should be able to get in there and have a good view. Two dogs lying up next to Yuri's house. Sorry about that, Fergus, the worst speed bump in the world. I must have a word with Rexon about it. There they are. There we go. It's two. It's four. Now they do not like leopards. Tristan is on Hosana. They've seen him. This is very exciting, everybody. If you haven't seen wild dogs before, they are my favourite mammal that we get out here. 4 of them so far. We see them so seldom. I recognise that one because it's so pale. And also, unlike all the others, it's got a black tip to its tail. That's really interesting. I'm going to turn around. Just about every single wild dog you see will have a white tip to the tail. All these other ones do. The lead one there, looks like the alpha female, I think, has got a black tip to her tail. Hello. Welcome to Juma. You can stay forever. Thinking towards the dogs. All right, you guys have just joined us from school. You've joined us at the most amazing time. We're sitting here with wild dogs. They are Africa's second most endangered carnivore. They're basically wolves that we have out here, although they don't look like wolves. It's great to have you with us. You're welcome to ask us any questions you'd like to. It's marvelous that you've joined us right now as the sun sets here in the Kruger National Park of South Africa. We'll also take you up to Kenya in a little while, hopefully to meet some lions. Now, these dogs are on the hunt. What they're hunting for? Well, that'll be any kind of antelope, a duiker, which is a small grey antelope, an impala. We'll just keep moving slowly with them, because if we stop moving, we could lose them immediately. Oh, this is beautiful. It's always good to take a deep breath in when you're with wild dogs, because they smell like very, very shaggy, wet dogs. Very special. So please ask us any questions you like. My name is James. You don't need to see me. Much more important that we see the dogs. Fergus is on camera. And once we've finished introducing you to these dogs, we're going to introduce you to a leopard. We're going to introduce you to some lions. What is he eating? He's picked up a bone of something, or a stick. Now, I don't know who this pack is. They've eaten already today. You can see that he's covered in blood on his face. May have picked up a... I don't know what that is. It's not a bird, is it? I don't know what that is. We're going to keep going. A car's going to go in front of us, so don't worry about that. They are, of course, on game drive. Those are tourists on game drive. They're very excited as well. There we go. Now, let's see whether... There, we've got a nice view of them running down the road. We must keep going. It would be much better, of course, to stop so that we could have a nice, gentle look at them, but unfortunately they are moving, and if we stop moving, they'll disappear. Apparently Hosanna, the male leopard, is running down towards us. There's a male leopard, and he loves company. He doesn't like being on his own, and I think he's coming down here. I can't see him. All right, while we wait and see if we can get a better view of these dogs, let's go up to the biggest cats of all in the Masai Mara. Jamie's sitting up there, I think in a rainstorm right now. Go and enjoy the Owino Pride.
Hello, and welcome to the students joining us this evening. Believe it or not, you have just jumped from one country to another. So even though you are still in Africa, you have now come all the way halfway across the continent to East Africa. And you don't know who I am, so I shall introduce myself. My name is Jamie, and I'm here in the Masai Mara with Manu, who is hiding behind the camera, and we are sitting with some big cats who are enjoying the bounty of the migration. So here in East Africa, there is a mass movement of animals. In other words, large numbers of wildebeest and zebra come all the way from Tanzania right across the border to here in Kenya. Now, this might be a sad sight to see, and perhaps for some of you a little bit worrying to see eaten, but that is the way of life out here It is a life or death scenario. The lions can't go running down to the shops to buy themselves some dinner. They have to catch and kill their own food, and that's what they've done with this wildebeest. And they're busy eating it as we speak. You can see how well they are hidden in that grass. I'm sorry, I really wanted to get you a little bit closer, but I can't manage it. Ah, now Cadrius, with these lions' big bellies, you want to know how much a lion can weigh. It depends if it is a female or a male. So a lioness, or a female lion, she can weigh around about 130 kilograms, possibly even more. So that is around about just over 250 pounds, closer to 300 pounds. A big male lion, a really big male lion, can even weigh up to 200 kilograms. So that is over 400 pounds. So they are really, really big. To give you an idea, if perhaps you have a really big dog at home, maybe a German Shepherd or an Alsatian or maybe a Rottweiler, one lioness is as heavy as close to 2.5 Rottweilers, or 3 even, if they're not very big. Does that sort of help to give you a rough idea as to how much that weighs? They are big, big, powerful animals. Now, these are the biggest of the big cats and certainly very beautiful, but there is one big cat that is arguably even more beautiful than they are.
They are indeed. So we are very, very lucky, Jamie, in that we have had, well, the biggest big cat in the form of lions. We've had the most endangered of our predators in the form of wild dogs. And now we've got the most elusive in the form of a leopard. So it's a very warm welcome to the school that's joined us this afternoon. I hope that you guys are going to have the best time, and you are having the best time. To see these 3 predators as quickly as you're seeing them is never really going to happen again. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing to be able to see this, and especially to have the kind of interactions that we're having. It really is amazing. Now, our male leopard is busy sniffing about, and I think that he's being very clever, and I'll tell you why. Came through here and they ran down this way and they had blood on their face and it looks like they've eaten. Now what this leopard is doing is he's smelling their tracks but walking the opposite direction, and I think he's trying to find where they may be killed in order to try and see if there's some food he can maybe get from the carcass, because wild dogs, they don't eat as much as like a lion, which will eat absolutely everything. A wild dog will only eat a little bit and then they'll feed as much as they can and then they just leave it. So there might be a half of a carcass lying around here somewhere that will be perfect for them to go, or for this leopard to go and scavenge. So there we go, you see now he's up and moving again, and his nose will be to the ground all the time. He'll kind of stop and he'll sniff and stop and sniff and stop and sniff, and that's to try and see if he can find the carcass where they've come from, and maybe just he'll get lucky and find some food. Megan, well, it depends where you go. This particular male leopard, yes, he's quite easy to spot these days. He spends a lot of his time around a water point because we're in the dry winter months and it's difficult for a lot of the animals to find water, so it's a good place for him to be able to get food. And so he's been fairly easy, but in terms of generally around the world, leopards are the hardest of the predators to find because they often are very shy. They don't like to be seen a lot of the time, and they are good at hiding. They have incredible camouflage. They've got these rosettes that makes them difficult to see when they go into a thicket, and they like to spend most of their time in a thicket. It's not common to see a leopard walking right like this male leopard is doing now. He's being very, very, very good to you and to us by walking out in the open grassland. So we're going to keep following him and see where he takes us. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up going along where these wild dogs came from in order to try and see if he can find that carcass or that dead animal that the dogs had already. I'm just trying to get around to where he's walking in case he's going to walk this way. Now, we're going to quickly send you across to James because he's got the dogs.
There they are. They're coming running past us. And as I was just saying a little bit earlier, I mean, I don't know who these dogs are. Everybody knows these packs quite well. There are quite a few people that know the packs quite well. But interestingly, if you look at the one in the front, which has just stopped there, you can see it's got a black tip to the tail. Little bit of white, but most of them have got white tips to the tail. That one's also very brown indeed. And so that makes it slightly easier to distinguish. Tania, these are my favourite animals. We're looking at them, wild dogs. And we don't see them very often, so it's really great that we've got to spend a bit of time with them tonight. And they move so far. Hi, little guy. I think it's a little girl, actually. Which is great. There are a couple of others running now next to us. Two of them. They run big distances, and I think very soon they're going to cross out of our reserve. So we're in a big reserve, obviously known as the Greater Kruger National Park. We're in a very small section of it, and these dogs have run in from the north, and they look like they're about to cross out of the south. We don't have a great deal left of our reserve. It's a nice picture of all three of them. That other one that you saw pick up what looks like the leg of something or other is still carrying it. Chewing, chewing, chewing. And I don't know if you've noticed also, but there's blood on the faces of the ones that have paler faces. You can see the blood. They've eaten today at some stage. One of them's gone down into what we call drainage line or dry riverbed. I'm just going to wait here. Okay, we're going to go into infrared now, everybody, which means the colour is going to disappear from your screen, but it means that we can look at them without shining any lights on them. So it is getting quite dark here. All right, we're going to move now. Let's go down into this riverbed. Now, it could get a little bit tricky to follow them through here, but we've still got them here, which is quite nice. There's one there. Just waiting for the other one. The reason is, of course, that they look after each other. So this one's waiting for the straggler that's got stuck behind. Still eating its leg. It's like a naughty kid that won't stop. Parents telling it to come on, hurry up, and it's just, no, I want to just finish this. And there go the rest of them now. Up the road. All three of them have gone up this road. Here comes the naughty little one behind us. It's finally dropped its bone. I'm just going to get out of the way. I don't want to separate the pack. We want to let them run together. That's a young male. Isn't he cool? We don't often get to see them like this, you know. Normally they're just flying all over the place. I don't mean flying literally, obviously. They don't fly, they run. What I'm going to do is listen to go in front of us now, because he's on game drive and he's got some guests that he's driving with, and they also need to have a look. Now things might get a little bit more hectic as we drive through here. Eee, lots of bushes. Well, they've stopped moving. That's quite nice. One of them has. Alright, we're going to try and keep up with them through this difficult area. Let's go off to Tristan and his leopard.
Well, good luck, James. You can see our leopard is going to drink in the most beautiful spot. There's the sunset that is going there, and you can see that he's kind of going down to have a bit of a quench of his thirst because, well, after all this chaos with wild dogs and all kinds of other things that have been around, he's now going to try and get a little bit of water. It's also been a very hot day today, so I'm pretty sure he wants to try and get a good drink. But what I'm going to do is just move so we can actually see his face, because he's kind of sitting in a funny place for us. And so while I do that, we're going to send you to a very special camera that's right there where he's drinking.
Good afternoon, boys and girls. My name is Steve, and I'm sitting here watching the Nest Cam. And Hosanna, there you can see him busy drinking. And there's Tristan and Senzo moving around. They're a little bit shy of the camera, would you believe it? As they move around, we can still see Hosanna busy having a drink. It is thirsty business out here in the African wilderness, and he's been waiting for probably most of the day before coming down for a drink, because they try and save and conserve their energy. So when those wild dogs ran in, we didn't see them from this camera, but they ran past the watering hole and they moved off, and that caused him, with all the alarms and shouts and all the animals that the wild dogs chased away, it caused him to come down and, okay, now is a good time to come and drink, seeing as all the chaos has been caused. Now he can quench his thirst that he's probably been thinking about all day long. Hello, Jace. A male leopard like this can weigh, this one individually probably weighs about 60, 70 kilograms, so maybe 130 pounds at the moment, but it can get up to about 180, maybe 190 at the most. That is a male. A female, about half of that in weight. Now, he's still growing. He's only 2.5 years old, so I'm going to guess that he's only still quite small in the weight side, but he will be filling into his dad's shoes very soon. His feet, you can see, are very big, and he has still got some growing to do, though. Only 2.5. He's a very successful young leopard who for the last month has blessed us with his presence, hanging around this watering hole and just being on our camera every single day. It has been fantastic. Very thirsty, isn't he? He's going to drink up that whole pan, it seems. Well, it looks like Tristan has managed to get on a better side to show us his beautiful face. Let's go have a look.
Well, we have indeed, but how cool is that Steve is sitting in the nest cam, well, watching with the nest cam. It really is a different view for our leopard than what we can get, because it can be much closer to where we can be. But isn't this cool? So you see now he's down and he's drinking, and what he does with his tongue is different to how we would drink. We would put a glass of water to our mouth and we would swallow. But what he's doing is he's got a tongue that he's curling backwards. So we curl our tongue up easily, but try curl your tongue down and around. It's not very easy at all. And then he pushes it towards the water surface, and he's got little hairs on his tongue. Now those hairs basically grab the water, and as he pulls his tongue up, water comes up with the tongue, and then he closes his mouth over it. So you see that? So he's actually not drinking all that much. He's just getting a little bit of water every single time, and that's why sometimes they'll spend a long time drinking, because it takes a long time to get a small amount of water into that mouth, and you've got to kind of keep going at it. And especially if it's been a very hot day, then you find that these leopards do drink for long periods of time and try and get themselves as quenched as possible. Now, I'm pretty sure once he's finished with drinking, he's going to come around and going to lie somewhere close by here. There's a few little patches where he likes to spend time, because he knows that as the night's coming in, there's going to be animals that are going to come drink here. So things like impalas and duikers, which are small little antelopes that come and drink, and those are the things he likes to hunt. And so what he does is he just spends his time just on the edges and tries to hide himself away, and then under the cover of darkness, he'll stalk and try and hunt. It's very, very pretty though. Look at that. You see all of the beautiful coloration. Now, our leopard has stopped drinking. He's working out where he's going to go and lie down, and so while we wait for him to move off and try and find a comfortable spot to sit, let's send you back across to Jamie with the king of the cats up in the Masai Mara.
Well, sort of. One of them hasn't made a decision yet as to where she's going to lie down, although the rest of them are spread out right next to us. Here's the amazing thing, is that out here in the Masai Mara in Kenya, is that we're going to spend the whole night following these lions, keeping track of where they go, what they do. Perhaps they'll just sleep all night, perhaps they'll be awake all night. But either way, we get to experience something absolutely amazing. And of course, lions are basically nocturnal. They'll move about during the day, especially here in the Masai Mara, but now, as you can see, it's starting to get dark. We're almost struggling to see them. Ah, that is a really good question, Colt. Now, Colt is wondering about why it is that female lions have manes and males don't. And I wish I could show you the young male of this pride, because he's just starting to grow his mane, and it kind of looks like a scraggly beard at this point. The reason that big male lions have manes is for a couple of reasons. One is to display that they are big and healthy and scary, to intimidate opponents, and to basically attract the females, let them know that they are big and strong and can take care of their territories. It's also to protect them while fighting. So although lionesses do fight with other lionesses because they are territorial, for male lions those fights are usually far more serious, and they can even kill other male lions that have strayed into their territory. So that big fluffy mane helps to protect the sensitive areas around the neck. But it does make them quite bulky. It does mean that they get quite hot. As you can imagine wearing a scarf in the middle of summer. Not just a scarf, but a beanie as well. So something on your head. And you can imagine how hot they get. Whereas the lionesses don't have to worry about that. They don't do as much fighting, they don't do as much displaying, and so they don't have to stress and get too hot. So that's why lionesses don't have manes. But interestingly, the bigger the mane and the darker in color the mane, the better it is for the females. That's what they like in a male lion. Now, from something big and strong to something smaller and faster, let's go and rejoin James.
There are the dogs, everybody. We just managed to find them again. They went running off into some thick bush. It looks to me like they killed something small again, ate it very quickly, and then carried on going. Maybe something small like a scrub hare, which is kind of a rabbit, really. And one of them is rolling around in the dirt up front. It's quite fun. Isn't that nice? That's beautiful. There they are. All of them just having a little roll in the thick sand there. Ah, it's lovely. That's very, very special, everybody. You don't see that every day. All right, let's quickly go across to Tristan.
Well, now we've got another predator that's coming in. You can see we've got spotted hyenas that have arrived. Their noses are to the ground. They would have heard all these impalas alarm calling, and when they smell wild dogs, well, then they're in full active mode. Look at them. You can see how they're running past us. The leopard would have probably run now. The leopard was behind me, so I don't know where it's run to, but these hyenas are not interested in leopard at the moment. They're interested in wild dogs. That's what they're looking for. A leopard is not a problem for them because, well, a leopard, you know, they know what it will kill, but more than anything else, they know wild dogs are more successful. Here's the leopard watching the hyenas. Look at this. This is amazing. There the hyenas are running down the road. Leopard's watching them thinking, what is going on? We've had a quiet afternoon where he was just relaxing, and all of a sudden he's had wild dogs run in towards him. He's had hyenas run past him, and no one's paying him any attention. He must be wondering what's going on altogether. Now he's going to walk and maybe see where those hyenas go in case there's a chance he can get a meal. But this is just absolutely crazy to see. So many predators in one little spot is really quite unusual. It's not something you see every day at all. We're being spoilt this afternoon. We've got absolutely everything happening all at once. It really is quite something to watch what's happening. Now, our male leopard has decided this is all too much for him, and he's going to just lie down and sit and spend time. Now, you will see that we're going to go probably from color into our infrared because it has gotten quite dark, and so you might see that the picture will go into black and white, much like James's. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to see our leopard at this time of the night. Now, just there we go. So you see it's now in, and we'll have a view of our leopard that is going to be sitting and just taking it very easy. Now, the light that you see coming off his eyes is reflecting from the infrared light. We can't see that light at all, and this is what's amazing. Neither can the leopard, and it allows us to watch everything in the dark. So, AJ, how did I become a safari guide? Well, it started when I was a kid. My grandparents spent a lot of time in the bush, and they took me to the bush a lot. And so I really developed a passion and a complete sort of love for the animals. And Then what I did is I obviously was at school and then went to university and then came out into the bush because I had some friends that worked in the bush, and they then said that there was basically a training school to become a guide. And so I went to the training school and ended up becoming a guide and being able to then spend time out here. So it was a long process, but a very good one, and we were very, very lucky in order to, well, I was lucky in order to be able to get out here and spend as much time as I do now with all the animals. It makes me very happy to be a guide on a day-to-day basis. Isn't that beautiful? He is very, very regal, don't you think? I think he looks just like a little king sitting there, and hopefully one day he will be a little king. He's still young. He's not the dominant male leopard that we get in this area. You do get a bigger male that's called Tingana, and he spends most of his time in this section. So it's going to be interesting to see if our young male will eventually take over and become the new king of this area in a few years' time. But it's been an absolutely crazy last 45 minutes. We've had just things running around in all over the place, and like I say, you've been very spoilt to go on a safari live with us here in Africa and see as many animals as you have. Sometimes it's not like this. Sometimes we don't see anything. Tough, but we've had an absolutely crazy afternoon. Now you will hear a car that's going to join us, so there are other vehicles that are out and about. Now hopefully all of you have learnt a lot of things this afternoon, and that you've loved being on safari, and that you will come out on a safari one day or continue to watch Safari Live. It's always nice to have the younger generation watching and learning about all of the animals that we get in this area. It is a wonderful thing to be able to show them all to all of you. But for our regular viewers as well, it's been a great drive from you guys too, and it's been filled with pretty much everything. We've had lions, we've had leopard, we've had wild dogs, we've had elephants, we've had pretty much all of the things that we could ever want in a single action-packed drive, which is absolutely amazing. Good, well, it's that time though where we're going to start heading home. It's the end of our day for us, so I hope that you all have a wonderful day at school, kids, and that you don't get too much homework. And as for the rest of our viewers, we'll see you tomorrow morning for the Gauntlet TV series. From all of the team, it's been a pleasure. See you all next time.